Hello everyone. Welcome to Frightening Tales. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep. So, before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and dive into tonight's case. Story 1. Time slips by. Just this past May, David Beckham, once the master of the banana kick and a revered football icon, turned 50. His children are all grown now. His youngest, Harper, once his precious darling, handled like fine glass, is now 13. Yet, even for a winner in life, like David Beckham, reaching the age of reckoning brings a bitter sigh. His eldest son, Brooklyn, seems to have a serious rift with the family. David Beckham's 50th birthday bash was a lavish week-long affair. Close friends, high society, his wife, and kids, all decked out in glamour, toasting the milestone. But who was there and who wasn't? Notably absent were Brooklyn and his wife Nicola. Victoria Beckham's social media post made no mention of Brooklyn, not even a tag. This raised eyebrows, especially since just days before the party, Brooklyn posted a photo with Nicola at a London hotel on Instagram. Many assumed they'd flown to London for the celebration. Or yet, not only did they skip it, but Brooklyn didn't even offer a public birthday wish. Coupled with David Beckham's reflective, almost wistful birthday post, it's hard not to feel a pang of sadness. This is, after all, his firstborn, the son he once cradled like a treasure. Even tattooing Brooklyn's birthday year on his body to symbolize their bond. Though Brooklyn hasn't achieved much as an adult, David and Victoria spared no expense or resources to support him. So why at his father's milestone 50th birthday did he fail to show up? From any angle it reeks of a family fracture. At the heart of this media storm is Brooklyn's wife, Nicola. When Brooklyn married, her transitioning from famous son to Hollywood son-in-law, tensions between the families and the mother-in-law-daughter-in-law dynamic never quieted. Some even dubbed them Harry and Meghan 2.0. Brooklyn Beckham, the eldest son of David Beckham, is a familiar face, infamously dubbed the all-around talentless heir. 3 years ago, his marriage to the daughter of a financial dynasty earned him a new title, Pelt's son-in-law. The Beckhams are already a household name, a dynasty of fame. But when it comes to sheer wealth, the Peltz family is a force to be reckoned with. So who is Nicola Peltz? The eyes at the heart of this notorious mother-in-law-daughter-in-law feud and the epicenter of a media maelstrom. Her name might not ring bells, but mention the daughter of the male lead in Transformers Parts 5 and 6 or Bradley Martin from Bates Motel and faces light up. Nicola, an actress and model, has been in the industry since 2006, 19 years now, age 30. Yet, her acting career remains modest, never breaking into the spotlight. These days, she leans into modeling and lucrative ad deals. Online, her most common label better at being born rich than Harper Beckham. Nola's father, Nelson Peltz, is an American billionaire, a titan in the food industry, and a heavyweight in politics and commerce. At 82, his origin story is striking. Born in Brooklyn, the very place that inspired David Beckham to name his firstborn. Like Brooklyn, Nelson dropped out of college. But unlike Brooklyn, everything he touched turned to gold. The youngest in his family, it's unclear how many generations the Peltz wealth spans, but there are at least 3 deep in riches. While at the prestigious Wharton School, Nelson decided he'd learned enough and left. He joined his grandfather's food distribution business as a delivery driver, a real-world stint for the privileged heir. His dream then was simple: save up to become a ski instructor. Whether that was genuine or just a rich kid's whimsy, his grit was undeniable. Within years, he made waves. His father handed him and his brother control of the company. By 1973, Nelson took it public, raking in $150 million US in revenue, a staggering sum for the era. In the 1990s, he co-founded an investment fund diving into high-stakes finance. His first major deal, a $300 million US purchase of Snapple, the iconic North American beverage brand from a struggling Quaker Oats. In just 3 years, he turned Snapple's value from $3 million to $1 billion US, selling it for a massive profit. Quaker Oats, the seller, not only took a heavy loss, but was swallowed by PepsiCo a year later amid operational turmoil. The Snapple deal cemented Nelson's status as a seasoned player in investments. Over decades, nearly every company he touched became a giant: PepsiCo, DuPont, Heinz, Procter & Gamble, and the ubiquitous American chain Wendy's. His sharp vision, operational skill, and strategic prowess are legendary. His family is as vast as his portfolio: 3 marriages, 10 children. His current wife, Claudia Hefner, a former 1990s model, bore 8 of them, with Nicola as the 5th. In 2017, Nelson Peltz cracked Forbes' list of the world's 500 richest with a net worth of $1.51 billion US. Per Forbes' latest, he holds steady at around $1.60 billion USD. Meanwhile, The Times ranked the Beckhams among Britain's ultra-wealthy, estimating their fortune at $500 million, roughly $660 million US. Compared to the Peltz dynasty, the Beckhams are outclassed. Nicola embodies the multi-generational tycoon elite, while Brooklyn is the quintessential Nepo baby, a term for those born into fame, coasting on connections rather than talent to carve a place in entertainment. Yet, Brooklyn struggles to live up to his father's legacy. David Beckham is a football legend. Won Champions League titles, 6 Premier League trophies, 2 FA Cups, 1 La Liga, 1 Spanish Super Cup, 2 MLS championships, and a League One title. He's the Premier League's assist king, Manchester United's iconic number 7, and master of the moon-curved free kick. Each accolade worthy of its own biography. So, it stings when netizens lament that a titan like David Beckham couldn't raise a Nepo baby worthy of his name. At 15, Brooklyn Beckham trained for a year at Arsenal's famed academy, the talent factory of the Premier League. But failing to secure a scholarship, he quickly left and pivoted to modeling. Early on, he landed gigs with major outlets like Vogue China and Miss Vogue. Yet, his modeling career fizzled out within a year. Next, he tried photography, his debut shooting a Berbera brick fragrance ad. The project drew scathing criticism from established photographers who accused Brooklyn of blatantly waltzing through the back door for the opportunity. At 18, he enrolled in photography at Parsons School of Design in the U.S. Less than a year later, he dropped out. Despite no degree, he published a photo book widely panned and mocked online. During the pandemic, with time on his hands, Brooklyn dabbled as a food vlogger, launching a cooking show. It lacked polish, earning sharp rebukes from chefs and food bloggers. As netizens quipped, no one's sure what keeps him busy, but this might be the hardest he's ever worked. Though he floundered in every pursuit, one thing is clear. Brooklyn never stirred major scandals or harbored glaring vices. From childhood, he's been a caring big brother. His cooking skills may spark debate, but his devotion to family shines. Perhaps that's what won Nola's heart. Nicola, meanwhile, holds traditional views on marriage. A Hebrew tattoo on her body reads, "Family first," inked early in life. Her parents married. Nearly 40 years remain deeply devoted. Raised in wealth and stability, her longing for a family of her own makes sense. Her acting career, however, mirrors Brooklyn's struggles. Despite 19 years in the industry, her skills haven't evolved. She's been nominated twice for a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actress. Like Brooklyn, she never finished college. In a sprawling family with many siblings, the Peltz business empire isn't hers to inherit. Online, many argue that stripped of their gilded backgrounds and parental shields, Nicola and Brooklyn are evenly matched, two sides of the same coin. They first met in March 2017 through Nola's brother. In 2019, a chance reunion at a party sparked instant chemistry. By 2020, they went public, and within 6 months, then they were engaged. Their romance burned bright. Brooklyn inked dozens of tattoos dedicated to Nicola. They even had their wisdom teeth gold-plated into matching necklaces, a love token that drew brutal awe. They took the only part of their bodies tied to wisdom. Delayed by the pandemic, their wedding finally took place in 2020. The event, from its grandeur to its backstage drama, was a spectacle foreshadowing the cracks that would soon emerge. In keeping with American tradition, the bride's family typically covers wedding costs and planning. The chosen venue, the Peltz family's mozzarella estate, a seaside mansion in Florida valued at over $100 million US, spanning 350,000 square meters, roughly 3 to 5 football fields. It's been hailed by Forbes as one of America's most luxurious estates. Nearby lies Donald Trump's famed Mar-a-Lago resort. Coincidentally, Nola's father, Nelson Peltz, a veteran investor with deep ties to the Republican Party, has funneled significant funds into Trump's campaigns. Just last year, Trump and Elon Musk shared breakfast at Montserrat, joined by their children casually slamming President Biden, a snapshot of America's political financial elite at play. Nola's wedding dress was a masterpiece of extravagance. A custom haute couture gown by Valentino. The creative director and design team spent a year perfecting it, making 2 trips to Rome to select materials and refine every detail for flawless elegance. For the reception, Nicola wore a Dior suit, a reimagined classic from Versace's founder. For photos, she chose Vivienne Westwood. Shockingly, none of her outfits came from her mother-in-law, Victoria Beckham's fashion label. Victoria naturally wore her own brand's design to her son's wedding, a choice netizens mocked as looking like pajamas. Some saw Nola's snub of Victoria's designs as disrespectful. Others argued that his old money opting for haute couture was inevitable, especially since Valentino has business ties with Nelson Peltz. In a later interview, Nicola claimed she initially planned to wear a Victoria Beckham gown, but the studio couldn't produce it in time, forcing a last-minute switch. She insisted she truly wanted to wear her mother-in-law's design. Skeptics, however, saw this as a veil jab, implying Victoria's brand lacked the capacity or caliber, sparking outrage among Victoria's fans. Insiders close to the Beckhams alleged Nicola never intended to wear Victoria's designs. During the ceremony, the two barely interacted, their tension nearly erupting into open conflict. A guest leaked to the media that Mark Anthony, a close friend of the Beckhams, gave a toast that ignored Nicola entirely, focusing solely on Victoria. Furious, Nicola reportedly burst into tears and stormed off. She also swapped the planned performance song with Victoria, turning the opening dance into a mother-son moment with Brooklyn. As the Cold War between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law ignited, their mothers Victoria and Claudia Hefner Peltz engaged in a subtle yet fierce jewelry showdown. Victoria flaunted a 21.5-carat diamond necklace and dazzling wedding ring. Claudia countered with a jaw-dropping 94 8-carat pigeon's egg diamond, a brutal flex of superior wealth. Sources close to Victoria claimed Nicola was consistently cold, resenting Victoria for stealing the spotlight. Cultural differences between British and American sensibilities also fueled their mutual irritation, making shared camera frames a battleground. Rumors swirled that Victoria's frustration stemmed from a more delicate issue: a rumored prenuptial agreement between Brooklyn and Nicola, though unconfirmed speculation suggests its terms left Victoria feeling outmatched by the Peltz family. As the mother-in-law feud escalated, Brooklyn's stance was clear. Post-wedding, the couple adopted the hyphenated surname Peltz Beckham, leaning toward the bride's family. Yet, as public figures, they maintained a facade of harmony, appearing together at events. Last year, they attended the premiere of Lola, a film starring and directed by Nicola, but no one foresaw the bombshell 6 months later. By May 2025, the families were completely disconnected. No joint appearances, no likes on posts, no responses to tags. Gossip began to churn. This wasn't just a mother-in-law clash anymore. Was a dramatic brother against brother feud sparked by a woman brewing. David Beckham's 50th birthday was celebrated twice. Yet Brooklyn and Nicola skipped both. Social media showed zero interaction. A source close to the family revealed the riffs trigger Romeo Beckham's current girlfriend, Kim Turnbull. Kim Turnbull, a model and DJ, hails from a family in the arts, but lacks the spotlight. The twist: her ex-boyfriend is none other than Rocco Rijke, son of Madonna, and director Guy Ritchie and Brooklyn Beckham's close friend. The trio was often spotted hanging out together, but after splitting with Rocco, Kim was rumored to have sparked a romance with Brooklyn. Though Romeo insists Kim never dated his brother, netizens aren't buying it. Photos of Brooklyn and Kim traveling together posing intimately fuel the fire, with Brooklyn's dating history stretching like a roll of toilet paper. Calling it a pure friendship sounds flimsy. Brooklyn's romantic track record is a transatlantic youth chronicle. From rumors to confirmed girlfriends, he's linked to at least 17 women. The most famous actress Chloe Grace Moretz, the iconic hit girl from Kick-Ass. Their height difference earned them the nickname Necklace Couple. Time has parted them. One married a tycoon's daughter. The other came out publicly. It's a tale both dramatic and starkly real. Insiders claim Brooklyn believes Kim exploited the Beckham name for fame, using her relationship with Romeo as a pretext. Romeo, unconvinced, cut ties with his brother. Brooklyn even vowed to avoid any event where Kim appears, choosing a hotel stay over his father's birthday bash. He and Nicola planned a private celebration for David, but it was rebuffed as snub Brooklyn took as his father siding with Romeo and his controversial girlfriend. Yet another Beckham family confidant told the media the real issue isn't Romeo or Kim, it's Nicola. Since their marriage, Brooklyn and Nicola relocated to a Pelt Zone mansion in the U.S. Despite an ocean between them, the mother-in-law feud with Victoria simmers. Sources say Nicola's resentment drives her to control Brooklyn like a puppet, barring him from family events. Before gatherings, the couple argues fiercely. Nicola demands Brooklyn yield and forbids him from meeting UK friends. Her fiery, commanding nature reportedly leaves Brooklyn passive. Nicola, meanwhile, embraces her new role. A magazine cover declared the new MRS. Beckham, Nicola pelts. Beckham is ready for her close-up, signaling her claim as the new Beckham matriarch. She even dyed her hair brown, mimicking Victoria's peak-era style. David Beckham, desperate to mend ties, has privately messaged Brooklyn and tagged him on social media. Brooklyn ignores it all. The prolonged rift frustrates the Beckhams, who liken Nicola to Meghan Markle, accusing her of fracturing Brooklyn's family ties. Much like Meghan's impact on Prince Harry and the Windsors, online public sentiment heavily favors David and Victoria, slamming Brooklyn as spineless and Nicola as controlling and disruptive. Brooklyn's friends push back, insisting Nicola supports his choices and is a loyal, devoted wife. One close friend revealed the couple planned to attend David's birthday, even cancelling Met Gala plans to prioritize family. But, feeling scapegoated, they opted out, hurt by the blame. A Met Gala insider, however, denies they ever confirmed attendance, claiming Brooklyn and Nicola had long planned to return to the UK for David's birthday. With everything set, the media, it seems, prefers fanning the mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law flames. The Daily Mail compared Brooklyn to Prince Harry, both born famous, heavily trolled, and overshadowed by their father's legacies. One, a king of England, the other a football icon. Meghan and Nicola, cast as troublemakers, are blamed for straining these vulnerable heirs from their families. Days after the family drama erupted, both couples, Brooklyn and Nicola, Harry and Meghan, attended the same party. Reports say they chatted warmly with Harry and Meghan, empathizing deeply with Brooklyn and Nicola. Both American daughters-in-law, both actresses, both painted as manipulating their naive, fragile husbands with tantrums and sweet talk. This narrative often overlooks a key truth in family conflicts. Men like Brooklyn and Harry make active choices, not just as victims of bullying or oppression. But could there be another layer to this saga? The Peltz dynasty, a beacon of generational wealth, wields vast hidden assets and a sprawling network of influence. Many argue that despite Brooklyn's freeloader label, he still brings value to his family. David Beckham's fame could endure for a lifetime, perhaps even a generation beyond. But with the current trajectory of his children, can their legacy hold strong for 3 or 4 more wealthy dynasties dread the slide into obscurity or the erosion of their fortunes? Marriages for such clans are strategic, designed to shield resources and power from delusion. Beyond food, Nelson Peltz dabbles in entertainment, serving as non-executive chairman of Madison Square Garden, a titan in sports and culture. Many of his children thrive in entertainment, fashion, and sports. The Beckham brand, by contrast, was forged by David and Victoria alone. When Nicola proclaimed herself the new Mrs. Beckham in magazines, whispers spread, could the Peltz clan be eyeing the Beckham brand? David and Victoria, fiercely protective, would never let their legacy be siphoned off. Rumors also swirled that Nelson Peltz was crafting a new brand for Nicola and Brooklyn. If true, their joint Peltz-Beckham surname signals a push to amplify this shared venture. The Beckhams' financial stake remains unclear, but the Peltz family's deep pockets likely dominate. So, is the mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law feud just a clash of overlapping investments or a calculated marketing ploy? Whether it's a genuine family rift or not, both sides profit. For us outsiders, let's not get too invested. Treat it as a juicy distraction, a spark of drama to lighten the grind of our busy, sweltering days. It's emotional pull is value enough. Story 2. In the heart of Soho, Manhattan, New York, a lavish 6-story townhouse renting for a staggering $30,000 a month became a house of horrors in a chilling crypto crime case that shook the world. John Woles, a 37-year-old crypto investor dubbed the Crypto King of Kentucky, stands accused of kidnapping and torturing a 28-year-old Italian citizen for weeks inside this opulent residence. His goal? To force the victim to reveal the password to a Bitcoin wallet. What sounds like a plot ripped from a horror movie was 100% real, unfolding in one of New York's wealthiest neighborhoods. The case left the public reeling and drew intense international media scrutiny. The years 2023 to 2025 marked a turbulent era for cryptocurrency. After a boom, the market faced chaos. The collapse of exchanges like FTX in late 2022, and a wave of scams eroded trust in the industry. Alongside this, crypto-related crime surged in both frequency and audacity, from sophisticated hacks to violent heists. Real-world kidnappings targeting crypto mogul became alarmingly common. The allure of digital wealth and the relative anonymity of blockchain transactions emboldened criminals to hatch daring schemes to seize others' crypto fortunes. The crime unfolded in Soho, an upscale Manhattan neighborhood famed for its art galleries, luxury boutiques, and historic buildings transformed into high-end apartments. Real estate here ranks among New York's priciest. The townhouse Waltz rented was once listed for an eye-watering $75,000 a month near the time of the crime. SHOS attracts newly minted millionaires, including crypto tycoons. Yet, beneath the glamour lies a darker side. Waltz's rented townhouse saw strangers coming and going for late-night parties, raising eyebrows among neighbors who sensed something off but couldn't pinpoint what lurked within. This collision of extravagance and the crypto underworld set the stage for Waltz's heinous crime hidden in plain sight at the heart of Manhattan. On the morning of May 23, 2025, after over 2 weeks of captivity, the victim seized a desperate chance to escape when his captors let their guard down. Barefoot, battered, and frantic, he bolted onto the street, stumbling into a nearby traffic enforcement officer. The officer's swift call to police sparked a dramatic rescue at 38 Prince Street. Storming the townhouse, police caught John Waltz hiding upstairs, clad in a bathrobe, barefoot, and too stunned to resist. Cuffed and marched out the image of the middle-aged man in a white robe, hands locked behind him, shocked onlookers as he was hustled into a squad car. At the same time, police arrested a 24-year-old woman at the scene, suspected to be Waltz's assistant. Another male accomplice slipped away, vanishing from the house. The victim rushed to Bellevue Hospital, was exhausted and riddled with injuries, but stable, his life no longer in danger. A quick sweep of the house chilled investigators. Polaroid photos of the victim bound and tortured alongside hidden handguns exposed the savage crimes committed within. Inside this prison in the heart of Soho, chaos reigned. Police described a trashed townhouse, shattered glass strewn across floors, furniture smashed to pieces. Military gear, including helmets, bulletproof vests, and night vision goggles, littered the scene. A deeper search uncovered a power saw, believed to have been used to slice into the victim's leg, along with cracked cocaine, bloodstains, bullets, and a handgun. Most haunting were the Polaroid stark images of the victim tied to a chair, a gun pressed to his head. These gruesome artifacts revealed the 8-bedroom, 10B townhouse had been transformed into a house of horrors for an organized extortion plot. During his captivity, the victim endured relentless brutality. Waltz and his crew bound him with electrical cords, shocking him with jolts that left him writhing in pain. They beat him repeatedly, pistol whipping him with gun handles. At times, they pressed a handgun to his head, threatening to pull the trigger if he disobeyed. The violence escalated. The perpetrators used a power saw to cut into his leg, inflicting a severe wound. To intimidate him, in a chilling act, they dangled him over the top-floor staircase railing, threatening to let him plummet if he didn't surrender his Bitcoin wallet password. The captors' psychological torment was equally merciless. They threatened to harm the victim's family in Italy if he didn't comply, hammering into him that he'd never escaped. They forced him to smoke crack cocaine, shoving a pipe in his face to humiliate and break his resistance. Worse still, the victim testified they degraded him further by urinating on him. To keep their hostage in check, Waltz strapped an air tag to his ankle, tracking his every move within the house, ensuring even the weakest attempt at escape was futile in the confined space. The victim, Michael Valentino Tapersto Carteron, a 28-year-old Italian citizen, was initially described by media as an Italian tourist visiting New York. In truth, he had prior crypto business ties with John Waltz. Sources indicate Carteron invested in cryptocurrency, holding a substantial digital fortune enough to make him a target for this audacious extortion scheme. Their connection lured him back to New York with Waltz's promise to help recover Bitcoin, previously coerced from him. Under murky circumstances, trusting or perhaps eager to resolve their financial dispute, Carteron agreed to fly to the U.S. As Waltz planned, on May 6, the victim stepped into his Soho townhouse and was immediately stripped of his passport and all communication devices. For the next 17 days, he was a prisoner. The kidnappers knew he held a massive digital fortune targeting millions in USD worth of Bitcoin. Despite horrific torture, the man refused to surrender his wallet's password for weeks, clinging to survival. When all hope seemed lost, when his captors declared they'd send him to meet his maker, he feigned surrender, agreeing to reveal the password stored on his laptop, buying precious time. This bold move opened the door to his daring escape. Now recovering under medical care, the victim bears countless wounds, including a deep saw cut on his leg. His psyche remains shaken, but his life is mercifully intact. His family in Italy, reeling from the ordeal, has been notified and placed under protection. The mastermind John Waltz hails from Kentucky, rising as a successful crypto investor. Known in the crypto world as the Crypto King of Kentucky, he commanded respect in his home state. Before his arrest, Waltz lived large in New York, renting part of the upscale Prince Street townhouse in Soho for $30,000, $40,000 a month. Such lavish rent hinted at his substantial wealth. Investigators estimate his fortune at around $100 million. Waltz's lifestyle was extravagant. Bordering on bizarre, he employed 2 full-time butlers at the Soho residence. The 6-story townhouse, complete with a private elevator, became a frat house playground, rooms littered with empty liquor bottles, a stripper pole erected in the basement. Neighbors reported raucous parties at all hours, oblivious to the chilling crime unfolding inside. To execute his kidnapping scheme, Waltz recruited at least 2 accomplices who lived in the house, turning it into a criminal barracks. When the plot unraveled, Waltz remained cold and cunning, refusing to answer police questions and demanding a lawyer immediately. His fall from crypto millionaire to violent felon stands as a stark warning to the crypto community about greed's dark side. Alongside evidence collection, authorities widen their hunt for Waltz's accomplices. The 24-year-old woman identified as Beatrice Falsi was detained with Waltz, but hasn't been charged by Manhattan prosecutors pending further investigation into her role. Falsi was spotted walking free the next day, suggesting a temporary release while inquiries continue. The male accomplice, identified as a former business associate of both Waltz and the victim, fled the residence post-crime and is likely hiding out of state or abroad. Police questioned Waltz's 2 butlers who claimed ignorance of the criminal plot, believing the house hosted only wild parties. Security footage from Prince Street is being analyzed to trace the suspect's movements before the case broke. U.S. authorities have also contacted Italian officials to safeguard the victim's family, fearing the fugitive accomplice might act on threats of revenge. Following the hostage rescue, New York police and Manhattan prosecutors launched a full-scale investigation. Piecing together the timeline from initial findings and the victim's account, the crime unfolded as follows. Luring the prey before May 2025, John Waltz contacted his former associate in Italy, falsely promising to help recover a Bitcoin some victim had previously been coerced into transferring. He invited him to New York to settle disputes. Trusting the offer or eager to resolve the financial conflict, the victim booked a flight to the U.S. On May 6, 2025, the moment he entered Waltz's townhouse at 38 Prince Street, the trap snapped shut. Waltz and his accomplices overpowered him, seizing his passport, phone, and laptop. Bound and locked in a sealed room, the victim was cut off from the world now, a hostage in Walt's grip. For over 2 weeks, the victim endured relentless physical and psychological abuse. Waltz and his crew interrogated him daily, demanding the Bitcoin wallet password. Each refusal sparked harsher torture beatings, electric shocks with bare wires, and the brutal power saw attack described earlier. Meanwhile, the kidnappers photographed and filmed their savage acts, using the footage as leverage to break him. To avoid neighbors' suspicion, they blasted music and hosted loud parties at night, masking any cries for help or unusual noises. By the 3rd week, with no password in hand, the captors grew impatient, fearing prolonged captivity risked exposure. They issued a chilling ultimatum. May 23 would be the victim's death day, unless he surrendered the password. Facing certain death, he knew escape was his only chance. He hatched a desperate plan. Feign submission to exploit a lapse in their guard. Pretending to spare, he agreed to provide the Bitcoin wallet password stored on his laptop, lulling Waltz into a false sense of victory. The ruse worked. On the morning of May 23, 2025, the kidnappers eased their vigilance, preparing to retrieve the password. When one left to fetch the laptop, the victim seized his moment. He freed himself from his bonds, bolted from the room, and raced down the stairs. Flinging open the front door, he escaped to the street before his captors could react. Barefoot, bloodied, and panicked, he staggered a short distance before spotting a traffic officer and signaling for help. The officer called for backup. Minutes later, police sirens wailed through Prince Street as rapid response units stormed in, arresting Waltz and ending the victim's 3-week nightmare, setting the stage for justice. On May 25, 2025, John Waltz was hauled before Manhattan Criminal Court for his arraignment. The 37-year-old defendant remained stone-faced, refusing to answer questions. His lawyer entered a not guilty plea to all charges. Given the case's severity, Judge Eric Schumacher ordered Waltz held without bail and confiscated his passport to prevent flight. Prosecutors unveiled for serious felony charges, first-degree kidnapping with intent to extort 2 counts of second-degree assault for inflicting severe injuries during torture, first-degree unlawful imprisonment, and illegal weapons possession due to the guns found at the scene. The prosecution highlighted the systematic brutality from beatings and electrocution to dangling the victim from a high floor and sawing his leg to argue Waltz posed an extreme danger unfit for release during proceedings. The case gripped the public. Outlets from the New York Times to BBC and The Guardian covered it with many stunned, calling it the boldest crypto kidnapping ever reported. With the current charges, Waltz faces decades in prison, potentially life without parole for first-degree kidnapping in New York. At the hearing, he showed little emotion as the lengthy indictment detailed his torturous acts, only occasionally whispering to his lawyer. The defense offered no significant statements, but observers speculate their only strategy may be to question the victim's credibility or exploit procedural gaps given the overwhelming physical evidence and testimony. The next hearing is set for May 28, 2025, where the court will review formal prosecution steps, possibly via a grand jury, and set a trial schedule. Public outrage is palpable. Social media demands harsh punishment for the crypto torturer. The case has also sparked Debates about the safety of crypto investors in cities like New York. The John Waltz case exposes unique risks tied to owning digital assets today. In the crypto world, the mantra, "Not your keys, not your crypto," emphasizes self-custody. Yet, this decentralization becomes a fatal flaw against violent criminals. If forced to reveal a private key, a victim's entire fortune can be stolen instantly with no recovery possible. Unlike bank funds which can be frozen or traced, blockchain transactions are irreversible. This leaves law enforcement struggling to protect victims in time police may catch the culprit. But stolen Bitcoin funneled through anonymous wallets or mixers is nearly impossible to recover. The relative anonymity and cross-border nature of crypto are exploited by criminals, while legal frameworks lag behind in safeguarding digital asset holders. The psychology behind crypto crime in this case is alarming. Gone are the days of sophisticated online scams. Many criminals now resort to old-school robbery, wielding brute force to steal digital fortunes. A crypto-specialized lawyer noted a chilling trend. Crypto theft is evolving. It's no longer just online fraud or SIM attacks. Criminals are now ready to use guns and knives. Indeed, recent cases reveal greed transforming cryptocurrency into an unprotected gold mine. A single coerced password can unlock millions of dollars instantly funneled into digital wallets. No splitting loot or hauling cash required. In May 2025, alongside the Welts case, the crypto world was rocked by another incident. 3 Florida teens kidnapped a crypto entrepreneur in Las Vegas, drove him to an Arizona desert and extorted $4 million in cryptocurrency and NFTs by threatening his life. Such cases expose the growing audacity of crypto criminals convinced digital assets are both high value and easier to steal than cash when violence is applied. Legally, this case raises urgent questions about gaps in blockchain crime prevention. Current laws in many countries lag behind blockchain's rapid growth, creating vulnerabilities criminals exploit. For instance, the Waltz case complicates international investigations. The victim is Italian and the crime occurred in the US and the assets could be scattered across wallets in multiple countries. This demands tight cross-border cooperation among law enforcement to trace and apprehend crypto criminals. Moreover, legal frameworks for recovering digital assets remain murky. If police seize a criminal's crypto wallet, returning it to victims or auctioning it for public funds faces legal hurdles. Lawmakers face mounting pressure to adapt from treating crypto extortion as an aggravating factor to establishing specialized high-tech crime units in police forces. The battle between law and crypto crime is just beginning, with challenges growing as blockchain becomes mainstream. And so today's case comes to a close. The Soho torture extortion saga sounds a stark warning for the crypto investment community. Many crypto tycoons now admit to bolstering personal security, hiring bodyguards, installing home alarms after cases like Waltz's. Exchanges and service providers are also urged to work closer with authorities, such as freezing accounts tied to suspicious transactions linked to kidnappings or extortion. The shocking John Welts case may prove a pivotal lesson pushing the crypto market to mature. It highlights that alongside the wealth building potential of cryptocurrency lurk very real dangers to personal safety. Only through technology vigilance and robust legal frameworks can such tragedies be prevented. Story 3. The spotlight surrounding Kim Hyang, former SS501 member and heartthrob of Boys Over Flowers, vanished in a way no one saw coming. In 2014, he was still hailed as the nation's dream boyfriend, the flawless idol adored across Asia. Overnight, that image shattered when a bombshell accusation from his ex-girlfriend surfaced, followed by a leak of their private text messages. An entire industry and millions of fans were left asking, was the Hal Prince they worshipped really a man who beat women? The answer would unfold over a decade-long legal saga packed with jaw-dropping twists and the kind of darkness K entertainment rarely lets the public see. Early 2010s, Kim Hyang sat on top of the world. As SS501's leader, he already owned the stage then. Boys Over Flowers made him a bona fide drama star. Sharp suit, sculpted face, he was every fan's dream date. But stage lights never reveal the whole truth. Showbiz is as unforgiving as it is glamorous. One moral scandal, one hint of violence, and an idol's career can evaporate in a blink. Agencies routinely bury troubles. Victims stay silent, fearing gender bias and the brute force of celebrity power. Kim Hyang's story broke the pattern. The person who tore down the curtain was someone who'd stood beside him for more than 2 years. His girlfriend, known to the press only as M. Choi. That intimacy made the fallout even more shocking. Behind closed doors, the picture-perfect romance hid a terrifying stain. It started on a summer day in 2014 when Miss Choi gathered her courage and walked into a Seoul police station. On the night of August 22, 2014, Korean media exploded. Kim Hyang had been sued by his secret girlfriend for assault. In her complaint filed 2 days earlier, Choi claimed he attacked her multiple times between May and July 2014. Arguments sparked by jealousy and suspicions of cheating spiraled into brutality. She provided medical files showing bruises and at one point a fractured rib that required 6 weeks recovery, plus photos and private texts proving their relationship and his violence. The bomb went off. Fans who worshipped his perfect boyfriend persona were stunned and furious. Dispatch, one of Korea's top entertainment outlets, confirmed Choi had reported 2 separate beatings, one in late May and one in mid-July. The second left her rib broken, exactly matching her first statement. Public opinion split fast. Many condemned the violence, while die-hard fans insisted it was a misunderstanding. At first, Kim and his agency, Key East, stayed silent, promising only to cooperate with investigators. As outrage grew, Key East issued a damage control press release on August 23. They admitted there had been physical altercation, but downplayed everything the couple they said had dated only a few months, not 2 years. Just one clash had occurred on 30th of May, 2014, during which both parties exchanged blows. They labeled Choi's fractured rib an accident from rough play, discovered the next day. The blowback was immediate. Women's groups slammed the statement for victim blaming and trivializing assault as horseplay. Still, a faction of loyal fans clung to the agency's narrative, trashing Choi online as money-hungry and intent on ruining their idol. Some extremists even threatened to sue her for defamation. Facing the storm, police summoned Kim in early September. He denied most allegations, claiming he accidentally hurt Choi once while practicing martial arts, nothing more. Yet his story clashed with hospital records and Choi's testimony. Investigators uncovered text and email exchanges showing a relationship riddled with jealousy and furious arguments. When those messages leaked, the public began to see the pair as locked in a toxic, slow-burn feud. With no CCTV or eyewitnesses, police relied heavily on Choi's account and her medical charts. Fearing prosecution and unrelenting public scorn, Kim changed tactics. On 15th of September 2014, he posted a public apology to his code name for Choi, admitting he'd caused her physical and emotional pain. 2 days later, Choi suddenly withdrew her complaint, signaling a private settlement. Reporters soon learned Kim had paid $600,140,000 for her silence. The hush money deal barred either side from disclosing details. Police dropped 3 of 4 assault counts, keeping only one lesser charge Kim had confessed to. On September 20, he completed final paperwork. Prosecutors later fined him $5,001,400,000, a slap on the wrist equivalent to simple bodily harm. The scandal seemed to cool. Kim laid low, stepped away from the spotlight. In October, he reportedly met Choi to apologize again. And weeks later, tabloids claimed the couple had rekindled their romance. He was spotted hosting a private apology party in November and vacationing with her on Jeju Island at Christmas. But early 2015, another bomb detonated. Choi announced she was pregnant with Kim's child. January 2015. While gossip outlets buzzed about the pair's reunion, Woman's Sense reported Choi's pregnancy. Kim's camp responded cautiously. He could not confirm he was the father, but would take responsibility if true. Then more leaked texts ignited a fresh firestorm. Dispatch, still shadowing the case, published late 2014 messages showing Kim pleading for forgiveness, declaring, "I love you," arranging secret meetups to reconcile. Choi hesitated yet stayed in touch. The logs also revealed talk of pregnancy and a possible miscarriage. In one exchange, Choi said she was expecting. Kim doubted it, demanded medical proof. Choi refused immediate ultrasound photos. The chat quickly soured. Kim wrote he'd order a DNA test when the baby arrived. Once public, the message's polarized opinion was Choi trapping a star, but was Kim ducking paternal duty? The relationship between Kim Hyung and Choi unraveled once again, this time beyond repair. In May 2015, Choi shocked the public by filing a civil lawsuit demanding $1.60 billion, roughly $64,000 US for emotional distress. The move sent shock waves through South Korea as many believe their conflicts had been settled the previous year. In her new lawsuit, Choi alleged she suffered a miscarriage in 2014 due to Kim's physical assault, and accused him of forcing her to terminate another pregnancy. These explosive claims, far graver initial accusations, had never been mentioned before. Kim Hyanong struck back fiercely, feeling betrayed after their prior settlement and payments. He countersued Choi, accusing her of breaching their confidentiality agreement and fabricating stories that severely damaged his reputation. The idol demanded Choi pay an identical $1.60 billion, approximately $64,000 in damages matching her claim. He also sought the return of $600 million, about $24,000 that she received in their 2014 agreement, arguing she had broken her promise. The legal battle erupted, not just over reputation, but also over the child Choi claimed to be carrying. And so, South Korea was swept into an unprecedented legal drama between two former lovers. Both sides relentlessly presented evidence to defend their narratives. Choi appeared on television, tearfully recounting how she lost her child due to Kim's alleged violence, vowing to raise his child alone. But her interview backfired. The court later deemed it defamatory as her accusations remained unproven, yet caused significant harm to Kim Hyung's image and credibility. Kim's legal team focused on dismantling inconsistencies in Choi's story. His lawyers revealed that medical records from the hospital where Choi was treated showed no evidence of a pregnancy at the time she claimed to have been assaulted. They raised a chilling question if she truly miscarried due to abuse. Why did Choi drop her lawsuit in 2014 and later reconcile with Kim? Was the pregnancy story a later addition crafted to pressure him legally and extort more money? Throughout the grueling 2015 to 2016 trial, evidence from phones and private messages reshaped the case. A series of Kakao Talk messages between Choi, her mother, and friends revealed she was not pregnant at the time she claimed a miscarriage in 2014. In one damning message to a close friend, Choi admitted her menstrual cycle remained regular after the alleged assault, a fact that obliterated her claim of a pregnancy, let alone a miscarriage. Even more shocking, the editor-in-chief of Dispatch, the outlet that first published Choi's evidence, was called to testify. He revealed that Choi had sent selectively edited messages to the media, deliberately manipulated to paint Kim in a worse light. Digital forensics later confirmed she deleted parts of their Kakao Talk conversations before submitting them to the court. While there was no evidence of falsified content, the court ruled her actions distorted the story's context, showing clear intent to manipulate public perception with tampered evidence. The biggest blow came when Choi admitted in court to lying. She initially claimed she was pregnant in October 2014 and was forced by Kim to terminate, but when confronted with contradictory evidence, Choi confessed this was entirely fabricated. No pregnancy, no abortion. This admission shattered her credibility. Prosecutors concluded she had deliberately made false accusations to extort money and ruin Kim Hyung's reputation. From that moment, the tide began to turn. Leaked evidence, confessions, and contradictions in Choi's testimony flipped the narrative in Kim's favor. Once branded a violent idol, he began to gain sympathy as many believed he had been deceived and blackmailed. Social media reflected the shift. She was never pregnant, just scheming for money. Kim Hyung is a victim, too. Comments like these flooded online platforms. Yet, Kim wasn't entirely blameless. He admitted to physically striking Choi once and had been fined $5 million and won about $200 in 2014, a fact he couldn't deny. But by now, the story was no longer just about a brutal celebrity. It had spiraled into a complex tragedy woven with love, deception, and ruthless calculations behind the glitz of showbiz. The drama peaked in September 2015 when Choi gave birth to a boy claiming he was Kim Hyung's son. At the time, Kim was serving in the military, having quietly enlisted in May 2015 amid the scandals. Peak. From the barracks, he demanded a paternity test. Choi initially refused, rejecting DNA testing during her pregnancy and immediately after the birth. Only after court intervention did both parties agree to a test in December 2015. The results were undeniable. Kim Hyung was the father with a 99% match. After nearly 2 years of relentless lawsuits and public sparring, both sides suffered heavy losses. Choi was exposed for fabricating the miscarriage, while Kim couldn't deny his role as a father. In April 2016, during a paternity hearing, the idol formally acknowledged the child as his. The court declared the paternity issue resolved, noting Kim's commitment to his responsibilities as a father. Custody and support issues would be addressed in a separate case. Legally, Choi retained custody as the child had lived with her since birth, while Kim was granted visitation rights. But with their relationship now steeped in deep animosity, no real cooperation followed. Parallel to the paternity case, the civil lawsuits over damages continued. In August 2016, Seoul's District Court delivered a verdict in Kim Hyung's favor. It dismissed Choi's $1.6 billion, $164,000 claim as she failed to provide convincing evidence that Kim caused a miscarriage or forced an abortion. Instead, the court ruled that Choi had breached their 2014 settlement and made false statements that severely damaged Kim's reputation. She was ordered to pay him $100 million won, approximately $4,000 for defamation. The ruling was scathing. Choi provided no evidence of being forced to abort or miscarrying due to violence. Yet, she made statements on television and in the media causing severe negative impact on the artist's image. This verdict was a powerful counterblow, dismantling the narrative Choi had built and partially restoring Kim's reputation. From a vilified star in 2014, he emerged as the victor in this legal war. But the saga didn't end there. Choi, insisting she was wronged, appealed to a higher court, maintaining she hadn't lied. The case moved to Seoul's appellate court and dragged on for years. In October 2018, the appellate court upheld the lower court's ruling dismissing Choi's appeal. The $100 million 14,000 U.S. compensation to Kim remained along with all court costs borne by Choi. The judge reiterated, no evidence supports claims that Kim Han-young caused a miscarriage or forced an abortion. Meanwhile, Choi's unverified statements destroyed a celebrity's public image and she must face legal consequences. After this, South Korean media revealed Choi's full name, Choi Hae-mi. Reports also surfaced that she had once aspired to enter the entertainment industry, but instead became infamous through a scandal that rocked the nation. Despite losing at both trial levels, Choi persisted. She appealed to the Seoul Supreme Court, her final hope to overturn the verdict. But in late 2020, the Supreme Court rejected her appeal upholding the $100 million won 4,000 U.S. penalty. The court emphasized there is no evidence that Choi suffered a miscarriage due to Kim Hyun-jung's violence or was forced to abort. Meanwhile, as a public figure, Kim's public image and personal honor were severely damaged. After over 5 years of one of South Korea's most contentious showbiz legal battles, Kim Hyun-jung emerged victorious. But it was a Pyrrhic victory marred by losses in image time. Reputation, and personal life. Choi's troubles didn't end with civil lawsuits. By early 2017, the Seoul prosecutor's office charged her with 2 criminal offenses, fraudulent extortion and defamation. The charges stemmed from evidence that she fabricated her pregnancy and miscarriage story to blackmail Kim Hyun-young, a clear act of deceit. Her spread of false information through media and television was also deemed defamatory, severely damaging another's reputation. Evidence from the civil trials, including Kakao Talk, messages, test results, and cross-examinations, was handed to prosecutors. Authorities confirmed Choi was never pregnant. At the time, she claimed a miscarriage due to Kim's violence. Her receipt of $600 million won, about $24,000 USD, in the 2014 settlement, justified as compensation for emotional distress from a miscarriage, was ruled a profit gained through lies. In February 2018, the criminal court found Choi guilty of fraud and slander, finding her $5 million won, roughly $200,000 USD. The ruling stated she lied about a 2014 pregnancy, a fact she admitted, providing grounds for defamation through spreading false claims. However, on the charge of evidence tampering related to deleted Kakao Talk messages, the court found insufficient proof that Choi intentionally altered content to distort the case. So no harsher penalty was applied. The $5 million and $1 fine sparked public outrage, deemed too lenient given the reputational harm Kim endured for years. Prosecutors appealed, demanding a stricter sentence. At the appellate trial in late 2018, prosecutors pushed for a 1-year and 4-month prison sentence, fitting the calculated nature of her fraudulent extortion. The court seemed to agree on the severity, with reports suggesting Choi received the proposed sentence. Yet specific details of this ruling weren't widely disclosed, and Choi appealed to the Supreme Court. In November 2020, South Korea's Supreme Court upheld the original verdict, a $5 million and $1 fine for fraud and defamation. The earlier prison sentence may have been suspended or converted to non-custodial reform. The court was clear Choi filed a civil lawsuit knowing she hadn't miscarried due to assault, deleted messages and fed false information to the media to slander Kim Hyun-jong. Once the accuser, Choi was now a convicted criminal. For Kim Hyun-jong, legal victory didn't erase the scars on his career. His public image was battered during the scandal's peak. Though partially vindicated by 2020 in Genton, many fans couldn't overlook his admitted act of violence against his girlfriend, a fatal flaw for a celebrity in South Korea's morally stringent entertainment industry. In 2014, the scandal triggered a cascade of losses. Kim lost advertising contracts, was dropped from TV shows, and saw his acting career freeze. In May 2015, he enlisted in the military, both to fulfill his duty and to escape the raging public storm. After nearly 2 years, he quietly completed his service in early 2017. But before he could rebuild, another scandal struck. Police caught him asleep at the wheel at an intersection, drunk with blood alcohol levels exceeding the legal limit. His license was revoked and he paid a $2 million fine, about $80 US, a crushing blow to his hopes of a showbiz comeback. During the legal battles with Cho, Kim Hyun-jong vanished from South Korea's entertainment scene. Yet, he retained a loyal fan base, especially in Japan and parts of Asia. This support allowed him to pivot to music, releasing albums and holding small-scale concerts in Japan and South America. In 2018, after winning his civil lawsuit, Kim marked his return with a lead role in the fantasy drama When Time Stopped. Aired on a minor cable channel, it failed to make waves. Major networks and brands remained wary of Kim Hyun-young, fearing backlash. Once a K-pop and TV A-lister, he became a controversial figure forever tied to scandal. Just when it seemed he could move past the chaos and focus on family and independent music, the old scandal cast its shadow again. In November 2022, Kim Hyun-young was thrust back into the spotlight with accusations of failing to pay child support for 8 years. A reporter turned YouTuber claimed that since his son with Choi was born in 2015, Kim hadn't paid a cent in support. Allegedly, he only met his son then 7 for the first time in late 2021. After the meeting, Kim reportedly requested to lower child support from $2 million to $1.66 million monthly, about $64. Citing reduced income, he declared an annual income of $70 million, roughly $2,800 modest for a celebrity, justifying his request to adjust support. The source, Mock Choi, felt it would have been better if Kim never acknowledged the child, sparing the boy further pain. The news ignited a firestorm on South Korean social media. Many branded Kim a deadbeat father, shirking his duties. Others questioned the source's credibility, suspecting a smear campaign as Kim attempted a comeback. His agency fired back, denying the claims. They insisted Kim never sought to reduce child support and called the allegations false and malicious. Whether true or not, the uproar proved the 2014 scandal's lingering grip, tainting every move Kim made under a skeptical public eye. Today, steering clear of television, Kim Hyun-young clings to music, his greatest passion. He formed his own band, consistently writing and releasing albums while performing live at events worldwide. He also launched a personal YouTube channel to connect with fans, sharing vlogs about daily life, band rehearsals and performances across cities. Choosing a low-key path, he avoids media spotlights, but sustains his artistic drive and bond with loyal supporters who stood by him through every storm. Looking back at the decade-long saga from 2014 to 2025, the Kim Hyun-young and ex-girlfriend scandal ranks among biz's most notorious and tangled personal dramas. It exposed ugly truths, violence in relationships, secret industry deals, and the law's misuse as a blackmail tool. It also sparked heated debates about gender bias in South Korea. Initially, the public rallied behind Choi, seeing her as a victim of abuse. But as evidence revealed her fabrications, outrage turned against her. The once protected, now vilified. Many feared this case set a dangerous precedent. A debunked false accusation could embolden actual abusers to dismiss victims as liars. The scandal also serves as a warning to celebrities. Kim Hyun-young's handling of personal relationships, from violence to cash settlements, plunged him into an inescapable crisis. In the end, the case closed with losses for all. Kim Hyun-young won legally, escaping further penalties, but his national heartthrob status was lost forever. His once soaring career crashed, his public image forever altered. Choi, once a sympathetic figure, became a convicted criminal. Her reputation and privacy shattered as her full name, Choi Hae, splashed across headlines. The child, the story's smallest, most innocent figure, grows up amid parental lawsuits, hostility, and media scrutiny, bearing a childhood scarred by trauma no child should endure. Kim Hyun-jung's shocking scandal is a lingering tragedy, revealing the bitter shadows behind K-pop's glamour. A few leaked messages, a mistimed expression, or a single bad choice in love can push a star's career and life to the brink. This case isn't just about the fragile line between good and evil, victim and villain. It's a defining chapter in South Korea's true crime saga, where truth, lies, and public opinion collide in a drama without a perfect ending. Story 4. A young woman once casually bit into a bright red lipstick as if it were a popsicle in front of the camera. A daring act that skyrocketed her to fame across social media. Now, that same boldness has become the starting point for a tragedy no one could have foreseen. Guava Beauty, a 24-year-old influencer from Taiwan known for her bizarre cosmetics eating videos, was recently found dead under sudden and mysterious circumstances. The passing of this innocent-faced vlogger with her peculiar penchant for devouring makeup has left the online community in shock, raising haunting questions. Did her habit of eating cosmetics for views claim her life? Or is there a darker secret lurking behind this tragedy? Now, let's delve into the story at hand. The incident unfolded in late May 2025 in Taiwan, a modern island where the youth are deeply immersed in social media and cutting-edge live streaming trends. At the time, the mukbang craze, eating on camera while engaging with viewers, was sweeping across Asia, offering audiences a relaxing, almost rustic feast for the eyes. But Guava Beauty took mukbang down a dangerous path instead of food. She chose cosmetics as her meal in her videos. With her charming looks, a pastel pink bedroom aesthetic, and an outlandish concept, the young blogger quickly amassed tens of thousands of followers on Instagram and Weibo. Her signature makeup mukbang trend, blending beauty routines with eating cosmetics, both captivated audiences' curiosity and sparked fierce debates about safety and ethics. Many viewers were drawn to Guava's audacity, but others voiced concerns over the toxic content, fearing it could inspire impressionable young people to blindly follow suit. This societal backdrop, a world where the thirst for online fame can push people to bizarre extremes, sets the stage for Guava Beauty's tragedy. On the late afternoon of May 24, 2025, a close friend of Guava Beauty stopped by her small Taipei apartment after several unanswered calls. As the door swung open, a chilling scene greeted her. Guava motionless on the bedroom floor, surrounded by scattered compacts, lipsticks, and makeup brushes. On her vanity, her vlogging camera still glowed faintly, its lens pointed at a small plate in the center. A broken red lipstick lay on it next to a silver fork smeared with crimson stains. The friend frantically called out Guava's name, but there was no response. Heart pounding, she knelt to check and found Guava's body cold, lifeless, without a trace of breath. "No way. Wake up, shower. Shower," the friend cried, shaking her in panic. Trembling, she fumbled for her phone and dialed emergency services, sobbing as she told the operator that Guava Beauty seemed to have passed out for reasons unknown. When the ambulance screeched to a halt, the friend was still reeling. Just days earlier she and Guava had been laughing together, brainstorming new video ideas. Yet now, the vibrant influencer lay still like a mannequin in the midst of her own cosmetics arena. Choking back tears, the friend recounted the events to the paramedics and police on the scene. Guava had no history of serious illness, nor had she complained about her health recently. Her sudden collapse at home left everyone bewildered. After a preliminary check, the emergency team confirmed that Guava Butte's heart had stopped before she was found. Given the unusual nature of the case, local police were called in to investigate the scene that very night. At the scene, Guava Butte's room showed no signs of a struggle or break-in. Every door and lock was intact, ruling out the possibility of an intruder. The victim's body lay on the floor, her head tilted against a pillow, still dressed in comfortable loungewear. Her face was pale, but there were no visible injuries, scratches, or signs of violence. As investigators surveyed the room, their attention was drawn to an odd detail. Countless makeup products were open and strewn about, mingled with eating utensils. On the vanity mirror's table, they noticed a jar of gel blush, partially scooped out, next to a small fork, the kind used for desserts, coated in pink powder. The broken red lipstick on the plate with clear bite marks was immediately collected as evidence. These clues pointed directly to the shocking cosmetics eating videos that define the victim's online persona. One investigator muttered, "Did she actually eat this stuff?" as he gingerly lifted the broken lipstick with tweezers for crime scene photos. His colleagues quickly noted the victim was found collapsed in her room, surrounded by makeup products bearing signs of being bitten or sampled. The initial impression among authorities was that this death was far from ordinary. Guava Butte was young, healthy, and yet had died abruptly in a setting filled with chemicals. Could this be poisoning from eating cosmetics? One investigator wondered aloud, his eyes fixed on the half-empty jar of gel blush. The team also seized the victim's phone and laptop to trace her final activities. On her phone, they uncovered a striking detail. Her Instagram bio had been updated on May 24 with an eerie message, "Goodbye world. Starting a new journey. All business collaborations paused." This sudden farewell-like status sent a jolt through the investigators. Did the victim know her end was near, or was this a cryptic final message she left behind? The team promptly recorded this detail and reached out to her family to verify who had edited her account bio on the day of the incident. The ill-fated victim, known by her real name, Guava Schauer, but widely recognized as Guava Butte, was a 24-year-old beauty blogger and freelance photo model in Taiwan. With delicate features, large, expressive eyes, a soft spoken voice, and a charming presentation style, Guava quickly captured the attention of the online beauty community around 2024. She often appeared on camera in pastel pink outfits set against a backdrop of a makeup table brimming with cosmetics, an image that earned her the affectionate nickname Lipstick Fairy among fans. Rather than producing conventional makeup tutorials, Guava Butte carved out a unique niche, blending beauty with cuisine. She would test makeup products on her skin while simultaneously tasting them to create bizarre eye-catching content. In one clip, for instance, she casually bit into a vibrant red lipstick, chewing it like ice cream and smiling as she described, "It's crunchy like jelly, but the taste is a bit odd." In another, she stirred a face mask into bubble tea and sipped it, or tore pieces of a makeup remover pad, dipped them in sauce, and chewed them like food. These outlandish ideas rapidly amassed massive viewership, propelling Guava Beauty to social media stardom. Her Instagram account boasted over 12,000 followers, and she also garnered a significant fan base on Weibo, China's social media platform. Yet, Guava Beauty's life wasn't as rosy as her video aesthetic suggested. Alongside the glow of online fame came its darker side. Guava faced a barrage of daily criticism and mockery. Many viewers accused her of promoting dangerous behavior by consuming harmful substances, while others derided her as having paw disorder characterized by eating non-food items. Far from staying silent, Guava confronted the backlash head-on. She publicly stated on social media that she always warned viewers not to eat cosmetics, emphasizing that her actions were purely for humorous video effects. "I've made it crystal clear, don't eat this. It's just for show. People need to be sensible enough to understand that I'm only responsible for the absurdity," she wrote, revealing her exhaustion with the relentless attacks while asserting her awareness of safety boundaries. Her friends later confirmed that Guava was meticulous and responsible about her content creation. Still, the weight of public scrutiny cast a shadow over the 24-year-old's life. Off camera, Guava grew increasingly private, sharing little with anyone beyond a small circle of close friends and family. She kept her personal life under wraps, and her real identity was never disclosed in the media. To the world, she was the vibrant Guava Beauty, tirelessly crafting quirky content despite the controversies. Her tragic end came just as her online career seemed poised for greater heights, leaving behind a wave of regret for a life cut short in its prime. Upon taking up the case, Taiwan police launched a thorough investigation to uncover the cause of Guava Beauty's sudden and puzzling death. Initial observations at the scene leaned toward the possibility of poisoning from cosmetic chemicals, given the clear evidence half-eaten makeup products scattered around the victim. However, this wasn't the only theory. Faced with the abrupt passing of a young, healthy woman, investigators had to consider every scenario, from an accident or medical condition to suicide or even homicide. They promptly collected all relevant evidence from the scene, including the broken lipstick, the remaining gel blush in its jar, the cosmetic-stained fork, and the victim's personal items, water glass, any pill bottles, etc. Guava's body was sent to the coroner for an autopsy, with blood and stomach contents sampled for toxicology tests. Another team reviewed the building's security footage and the list of visitors to her apartment in the days prior, searching for any suspicious activity. Simultaneously, police interviewed key witnesses: the friend who found her body, her family, and her boyfriend. Through their statements, a timeline of events began to take shape. In April 2025, Guava Beauty was still deeply engaged in her content creation career. On April 23, she posted a new Instagram video reviewing a gel blush. For dramatic effect, she applied the pink gel to her cheeks, then boldly declared, "If you dare to recommend it, I dare to eat it." On camera, she speared a piece of the gel blush with a fork, chewed it with a satisfying crunch, and grimaced, exclaiming, "Sorry, but this tastes awful." The video ended with her laughing, sticking out her tongue to signal she wouldn't swallow it. The clip racked up tens of Thousands of views and thousands of polarized comments. Some fans adored her playful audacity, but others unleashed a fresh wave of criticism. Please stop. These are chemicals, not food. If someone copies you and gets hurt, will you take responsibility? One user commented harshly. Guava tried to quell the controversy by pinning a comment, clarifying that she never swallowed the cosmetics, that it was all for visual effect, and urging viewers not to try this at home. Yet, the debate only intensified. The hashtag Ashar and Mafam eating cosmetics became a trending topic on Weibo, with health bloggers condemning the trend and some even reporting Guava's videos to platforms for dangerous content. Guava Beauty found herself at the center of a social media storm. In early May 2025, under mounting pressure, Guava abruptly vanished from social media. She stopped posting videos or updates, leaving fans bewildered and speculating. Some assumed she was lying low to escape the controversy, others worried she was ill. In truth, Guava Beauty had been quietly hospitalized. According to her boyfriend, around May 5, she developed a persistent high fever, fatigue and body aches. Her family took her to the hospital, where doctors diagnosed mild myocarditis, likely viral, requiring close monitoring. Guava spent over 2 weeks in the hospital undergoing multiple tests due to occasional chest pain and shortness of breath. Alarming symptoms for someone so young. She wore a heart monitor continuously despite her weakened state. Guava remained upbeat, even joking with nurses that she'd make a video about her hospital stay for everyone once discharged. Few knew about her hospitalization, as she asked her family to keep it private to avoid further online gossip. On May 20, 2025, Guava's condition took a sudden turn for the worse. That night, she suffered severe chest pain and a dangerous drop in blood pressure. Doctors fought to stabilize her throughout the night, administering oxygen and heart supporting drugs. Guava slipped into critical condition, with her family keeping vigil by her bedside, fearing the worst. In a semi-conscious moment, she clutched her mother's hand, tears streaming down, whispering, "I'm sorry for worrying everyone." Deep down, the young woman seemed burdened by guilt, perhaps for risking her health or causing her family distress amid the public controversies. Her mother, choking back tears, reassured her. "You'll be okay. Stay strong, sweetheart." Guava nodded weakly, fighting to survive the crisis. On the afternoon of May 24, 2025, Guava Beauty's heart stopped. Despite exhaustive efforts, doctors pronounced her dead around 3 hours Zumro. The hospital room fell into a stunned silence. Her mother collapsed in tears beside her daughter. Her father stood frozen, and her boyfriend punched the wall, repeating, "No, this can't be." The loss was overwhelming. The family chose to bring Guava's body back to her small apartment rather than leaving it in the hospital, wanting her to rest in a familiar place one last time. Wrapped in a blanket, her body was gently placed on her bed. Her loved ones dressed her in clean clothes and applied light makeup to give her a peaceful sleeping appearance. Later that evening, after arrangements were made, her close friend was called to say a final goodbye and assist with preparations. It was this friend who, upon entering the room, witnessed the heartbreaking scene and frantically called emergency services, unaware that Guava had already passed. hours earlier in the hospital. This misunderstanding initially led police to believe Guava died alone at home. But in reality, she had taken her last breath, surrounded by family at the hospital. Still, with the medical cause of death unclear, police proceeded with the investigation as outlined earlier. Late on May 24 into the early hours of May 25, Guava's family drafted and posted an obituary on her social media accounts. Around midnight, her Instagram manager, her close friend, updated her bio with a farewell message and shared a post announcing the tragic news. Written in Chinese, it translates to, "We are heartbroken to share that Guava Beauty, our precious gem in the world of makeup, mukbang, left this world on May 24, 2025. She has set down her brush and soared away, starting a new channel in heaven." The post also thanked her audience. "Thank you to everyone who loved, commented, and laughed with her. Guava truly cherished it all." The family stated they would keep her Instagram account active as a memorial, adding, "Who knows, maybe next time we meet, she'll unveil a makeup line just for angels." The post sent shockwaves through the online community. Many refused to believe it, as the 24-year-old had been live streaming with her signature smile just days before. Initial crime scene analysis revealed no signs of a struggle or external force, ruling out direct homicide. Security footage showed no strangers entering her apartment around May 24, further supporting the view that this wasn't a typical murder case. The investigation thus shifted to internal causes. Had Guava harmed herself? Was an acute medical condition to blame? Or could cosmetic poisoning truly be the culprit? To find answers, police and experts meticulously pursued every lead. The main hypotheses and how investigators approached them are outlined below. A.K. Parbisto C. Swadlam Dismalanacort. Poisoning from consuming cosmetics. This was the leading hypothesis initially. The crime scene suggested the victim had indeed been eating lipstick and blush just before losing consciousness. Cosmetics often contain chemicals lead, mercury, parabens, preservatives that can cause severe harm if ingested. Forensic experts tested Guava's blood and stomach contents for traces of toxic chemicals or heavy metals from the makeup. Surprisingly, the results showed no lethal levels of toxins. A doctor involved in the examination stated there was no evidence of acute cosmetic poisoning. It seems she didn't swallow a significant amount of any chemical before her death. In fact, many of Guava's videos revealed she typically spat out the cosmetics after biting them, not fully ingesting them as some assumed. Her close friend testified that Guava was well aware of the dangers, only tasting for the camera before quickly spitting out and thoroughly rinsing her mouth after each take. Consequently, the cosmetic poisoning theory was gradually ruled out, with doctors stating they had clearly eliminated any link to so-called cosmetic food suicide due to pressure. Initially, police found no suicide note or signs of preparation for ending her life, such as purchasing poisons or settling affairs. However, they paid close attention to Instagram bio update "Goodbye World." The message appeared at first glance like a farewell, possibly posted by Guava with negative intent. A motive for such a drastic act wasn't baseless. Guava Beauty faced immense pressure from public scrutiny. She had confided in her boyfriend about experiencing mild depression and insomnia due to vicious online attacks on Chinese social media after her death. Rumors circulated that Guava couldn't handle cyberbullying and chose to end her life. Police reviewed her message history and phone logs to check for any expressions of intent to die or searches related to suicide methods. The findings showed no clear evidence, no desperate messages, no online searches about self-harm, and no signs she had arranged personal matters, finances, messages to loved ones, as is common in suicide cases. Moreover, her family confirmed that Guava had recently signed a new collaboration deal with a cosmetics brand and had many unfinished plans, making it unlikely she would give up at this point. Regarding the Goodbye World bio, the family clarified that a relative or friend likely posted it after her death as a metaphorical announcement. This dispelled suspicions that Guava wrote a farewell note herself. Thus, the suicide hypothesis lost traction, though it wasn't entirely ruled out. Homicide by poisoning. Police also considered the possibility that someone exploited Guava's cosmetic eating habit to poison her covertly. For instance, a perpetrator could have laced a lipstick or gel blush with poison and sent it as a promotional gift, leading to her death when she sampled it on camera. This conspiratorial theory required investigation to avoid overlooking a crime. The team traced the origins of the cosmetics at the scene. Guava's friend provided a list of brands she typically used, mostly purchased by herself or sent by reputable companies, with oversight with no unfamiliar items recently acquired. Further checks confirmed that all lipsticks and compacts at the scene were from trusted brands. Lab analysis of the remaining gel blush and broken lipstick found no foreign toxins mixed and beyond the standard chemical components of cosmetics. Additionally, Guava's recent contacts were limited. She lived with a cousin who was away that day. Her friend who discovered the scene had a solid alibi, being with her husband and children. And her boyfriend, who was elsewhere on May 24, sent her a final message on the evening of May 23, indicating her mood was normal. No significant conflicts or grudges were noted in her relationships. With this evidence, police concluded there were no signs of criminal activity. Almost certainly no killer behind Guava's death. Sudden death due to medical or natural causes, with other theories faltering. This became the most plausible explanation. Despite her youth, Guava Beauty may have had an underlying health condition or disorder leading to sudden death. Forensic pathologists closely examined her heart, brain, and internal organs. Preliminary findings revealed mild myocarditis, possibly viral, which can cause heart rhythm disturbances and sudden death, especially under stress. Her lungs showed slight edema, but no clear brain damage was found. Tissue samples were sent for microscopic analysis to detect signs of heart attack or brain hemorrhage, though final results were pending at the time of reporting. Doctors suspected an acute arrhythmia or heart attack as the cause of death, a theory echoed by online speculation that Guava suffered a cardiac event. Another possibility was a severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis to a cosmetic ingredient causing rapid respiratory failure. However, no typical signs of anaphylaxis such as rashes or throat swelling were observed. Thus, the precise cause remained elusive, likely tied to microscopic or biochemical factors requiring further analysis. Throughout the multi-day investigation, detectives and experts painstakingly pieced together the truth. They meticulously cross-referenced witness statements with scientific evidence, gradually eliminating implausible theories. At times, the case seemed at a standstill, especially when toxicology tests returned negative for cosmetics, indicating the case wasn't as straightforward as initially thought. But a breakthrough came from an unexpected source, the victim's family. On May 25, a day after Guava's death, her family posted a heartfelt public statement on her social media. "We are devastated to share that our little girl, who bravely brought joy through her cosmetic mukbang videos, Guava Beauty, has set down her makeup brush and embarked on a new journey in heaven on May 24, 2025. The statement praised her for always working diligently, staying dedicated, and shining brightly, enduring every hardship until the very end. The phrase "enduring every hardship until the very end" sparked speculation that Guava had been battling a serious illness but fought on, true to her resilient spirit. Indeed, friends and family revealed that about a month before her death, Guava Beauty had shown signs of declining health. She abruptly stopped posting videos for weeks. Her last Instagram post was on April 23, a stark contrast to her regular updates. In early May, she was hospitalized for a sudden illness. Sources mentioned high fever and chest pain, requiring close monitoring. She fought bravely and tirelessly during treatment, but her condition deteriorated rapidly, overwhelming both her family and doctors. On the fateful day of May 24, Guava Xiao took her final breath in the hospital, surrounded by the anguished helplessness of her loved ones. The fact that she was found at home stemmed from her family's decision to bring her body back before notifying friends and the public. This explained the lack of struggle at the scene. Guava likely didn't die there, but was brought to her apartment after passing in the hospital. While police hadn't publicly confirmed this detail, it aligned with the family's request to keep the exact cause private and avoid excessive speculation. This revelation strengthened the sudden illness theory. Ultimately, after reviewing all evidence, police concluded there was no criminal element attributing her death to a sudden severe illness that tragically struck. Throughout the quest for truth, Wet Tail haunted investigators. The lifeless cosmetics scattered at the scene, from the half-eaten lipstick to the Mar-Gel blush, they stood as a metaphor for the fragile line between entertainment and danger that Guava Beauty crossed. Though science proved they didn't directly cause her death, their presence at the crime scene carried a bitter symbolism. The case closed with authorities releasing Guava Beauty's body to her family for final arrangements. No handcuffs were clicked. No suspects arrested, for the culprit was likely not human. Instead, the case left a stinging warning about the invisible perils lurking behind the allure of social media fame. In this tragedy, the police found no flesh and blood culprit. Yet, metaphorically speaking, the culprit was whatever stole Guava Beauty's life, a cause still shrouded in mystery. Initially, many believed the perpetrator was her habit of consuming cosmetics, or more specifically, toxins accumulated from the makeup she ingested. Cosmetics, after all, contain harmful chemicals. When consumed, lead and mercury can damage the brain and nervous system. Microplastics and synthetic dyes may build up, potentially causing cancer. Parabens and formaldehyde preservatives can impair liver and kidney function. This presumed culprit seemed plausible. So much so that after Guava's death, social media erupted with accusations that the lipsticks and powders she consumed were what killed her. However, the investigation and medical tests exonerated the cosmetics. There was no evidence of acute poisoning. Her close friend emphasized that Guava always publicly warned viewers that cosmetics aren't food and was meticulous about her health, meaning she understood the dangers and had no intention of poisoning herself. Thus, the first suspected culprit was cleared from the investigation. So, who or what was the true culprit? The most logical explanation to date is that Guava Beauty succumbed to a sudden severe illness. The invisible killer that claimed her life. The family statement referred to sudden ailments as the cause of her death. Though they shared no specifics, the phrase suggests a serious unexpected medical issue such as cardiac arrest or a stroke. Indeed, a heart attack or acute arrhythmia can claim a young person's life without warning. Particularly under stress, and Guava faced immense mental strain from creating controversial content. A silent killer in its own right. Some argued that cyberbullying and the pressure to chase views eroded her mental and physical health, pushing her to the brink. The venomous comments online are as deadly as poison, a family friend said in anguish. Every ja and attack Guava endured may have accumulated into psychological scars, quietly undermining her will and possibly her cardiovascular health. Medical research shows that severe stress can trigger broken heart syndrome, a stress-induced cardiac event. Could the real culprit lie not in a tangible substance, but in the dark side of social media, a toxic force that snuffs out youthful dreams? Of course. Until a final medical conclusion is reached, all theories remain speculative. The direct cause of Guava Beauty's heart stopping may forever remain a mystery if her family chooses to keep it private. But looking at the bigger picture, two symbolic culprits emerged: the lipsticks and powders representing reckless risk-taking and the pressure of virtual fame, embodying the cruel underbelly of influencer life. Whether invisible or tangible, both converged to rob a vibrant, promising young woman of her life. Painfully, she herself unwittingly paved the way for these culprits through actions that traded health for fleeting fame. On May 25 to 26, 2025, news of her death spread like wildfire across Taiwan, mainland China, Vietnam, the US, and beyond. The hashtag Guava Beauty dies soared to the top of search trends. Chinese media citing her family's account reported that the blogger passed away suddenly at 24. The online community reeled with millions sending condolences to her family. I can't believe it, but I'm sure Guava Beauty will be the most beautiful mukbang angel in heaven. One netizen wrote, choked with emotion. Yet, alongside the grief, rumors about her cause of death proliferated on Weibo. Many insisted it must be poisoning from eating cosmetics, turning Guava into a cautionary tale against chasing views. Some extreme voices even blamed her family. Why didn't they stop her from making such dangerous content, leading to this heartbreaking outcome? Conversely, others suspected darker secrets. Someone claiming to know her family spread rumors of suicide, fueling further confusion. Amid their raw grief, Guava's family and friends faced renewed public pressure. They chose to withhold details of her illness, both due to the lack of a final medical conclusion and to protect her privacy. A planned public memorial was cancelled at the last minute to avoid intrusive curiosity. Her close friend, also the admin of Guava's page, spoke out in the comments of the obituary post, urging people to please stop prying into details and to let Guava and her family have a peaceful farewell. She also warned against imposters claiming insider knowledge for clout who might exploit public curiosity for scams. Only the family and a few close friends know the full story. Please respect their privacy and be patient, she pleaded desperately, hoping to quell malicious speculation. In early June 2025, major international outlets began covering Guava Buttes' passing, framing it as a wake-up call about dangerous online video trends. People magazine quoted her friend confirming that doctors ruled out cosmetics as the cause of death and condemning the malicious attacks, fabrications, and mockery that deeply hurt her loved ones. Other outlets like Insider and Hindustan Times recounted the story, emphasizing that she battled a sudden illness and passed abruptly. Health and psychology experts interviewed on the topic warned that consuming cosmetics is highly dangerous, even if not immediately lethal, as it can cause long-term harm. They also raised concerns about the mental toll on content creators like Guava. In an era where views dictate everything, young people are pushing themselves into reckless challenges for fame. Behind the virtual glamour lies real stress, even depression. Guava Buttes' case, a beautiful, talented young woman lost so tragically, was cited as a textbook tragedy exposing the extreme consequences of the view-chasing culture. When people risk their lives for fleeting online attention, the cost may be their health or life itself. Reflecting on the entire saga, Guava Buttes' story is rife with painful ironies. The young woman launched her career, aiming to blend her passions for beauty and cuisine, bringing joy to others. But the bolder her ideas, the harsher the backlash she faced. Those invisible pressures may have felled her, both literally and figuratively. When Guava closed her eyes for the last time, she likely never imagined becoming the central figure in a societal cautionary tale. Her death rang a warning bell, urging reflection in the race for views. Don't blindly trade life and self-worth. No legal trial was held for Guava Buttes' case, as no criminal act or perpetrator was identified. Instead, a trial unfolded on social media where the public play judge and Guava's reputation stood in the dock. Opinions split sharply, with heated debates raging online. Though no courtroom verdict was issued, the public effectively passed judgment by drawing lessons from the tragedy. Most agreed that Guava Buttes' case serves as a stark warning, prompting calls for platforms and regulators to intervene. Indeed, within days, health experts and activists in Taiwan petitioned authorities to tighten oversight of hazardous online content. They proposed penalties or removal for creators promoting dangerous challenges, like eating cosmetics, detergent, or self-harm, to prevent further tragedies. This can be seen as a societal verdict on the trend Guava pioneered, condemned, and targeted for prevention to spare future victims. And so today's video comes to a close. Ultimately, Guava Buttes' passing is a tragedy of our digital age, a tragedy of the hunger for fame in the online era. It reminds us that every view and follower carries responsibility for both creators and consumers. When the line between entertainment and danger blurs, the consequences are unpredictable. We hope Guava's loss, so young, so passionate about her craft, won't be in vain, but will serve as a wake-up call for society and the online community to reflect value, health, and life, treat others with humanity in the virtual space, and let future Guava Buttes shine in a safe, healthy environment. Only then can we transform such heartbreaking tragedies into catalysts for positive change, ensuring no one else pays the ultimate price for fleeting digital glory. Story 5. It began with a quiet house, a locked door, and a horrifying silence that greeted police on a spring morning. What they found inside would spark a frantic manhunt. Unear secrets darker than anyone imagined and lead to one of the most disturbing cases in modern American history. And at the heart of it, all were two missing children. I just have something to tell you. I'm sitting down here at Denny's and there was a little girl that just walked in and looked exactly like the girl. Is she still inside? Yes, she is. And she's with an older man. With an older man. Yeah. And the thing that really triggered me the most was I was reading the nickel growth and I seen a picture of the nickel growth and I showed it to one of the waitresses here and she said, "Oh my God, she's in here." On May 16, 2005, what should have been just another quiet Monday morning in a lakeside town of Idaho quickly became a day that would haunt the nation. In a home nestled along the banks of Lake Coeur d'Alene, police made a gruesome discovery. Inside the house, they found the lifeless, brutally beaten bodies of 40-year-old Brenda Gran, her 13-year-old son, Slade, and her boyfriend Mark McKenzie. Each victim had been bound, and each one had suffered horrific blunt force trauma to the head. But this crime scene was just the beginning of a nightmare that would only grow darker. Two of Brenda's youngest children, 9-year-old Dylan and 8-year-old Shasta, were missing. Authorities feared the worst and issued an Amber Alert, hoping desperately that they weren't already too late. From the moment the alert went out, search teams scoured the dense woods and winding roads that wrapped around the town. The FBI stepped in, and yet Dylan and Shasta were nowhere to be found. To the outside world, it looked like the perfect abduction. Someone had managed to slip into the family's home, brutally murder 3 people, kidnap 2 children, and disappear into the night. But the truth was even worse than anyone imagined. 47 days after the unimaginable horror that tore through the growing household, the case took a shocking and almost surreal turn. It was the early morning of July 2, 2005 when a man and a young girl quietly entered a Denny's restaurant in Curtin. At first glance, nothing about the pair seemed particularly alarming. Just a disheveled man with a tired ill-looking child. But for those who had been following the headlines, who had seen the posters, the news clips, and the tearful pleas from a desperate father, there was something unmistakable about that girl. A waitress took one long look at the child and froze. Could it be her? The little girl missing for weeks, the one no one thought they'd ever see again. The staff moved quickly without raising suspicion. A manager discreetly called the police while the waitress kept her composure, pretending nothing was out of place. 2 customers, who had also recognized the child, positioned themselves near the exit, silently, vowing not to let the man escape. It was a tense, quiet standoff, masked by the clatter of silverware and the sizzle of breakfast on the grill. And then within minutes that felt like hours, police stormed in. They arrested the man without incident. He didn't resist. He didn't run. He just watched as the world around him closed in. That man was Joseph Edward Duncan. The little girl was Shasta grown, and against all odds, against everything everyone feared, she was alive. Shasta, with the Kind of strength no child should ever have to possess, identified herself to the waitress and to authorities. She was immediately taken to Kutan Medical Center. Her face pale, her body thin, but her spirit somehow still intact. After weeks of unimaginable trauma, of wilderness, of fear, of being trapped with a twisted man, she was finally safe. And soon after, in a moment filled with tears and heartbreak and a bittersweet sense of relief, she was reunited with her father. But the moment was also shadowed by a question: where was Dylan? Shasta had been found, but her brother was nowhere in sight. Authorities knew Duncan wasn't the type to let a child go free. The likelihood that Dylan had survived this long began to feel like a cruel illusion. Still, investigators pressed on, desperate to recover any piece of the boy's story. They asked the public for help, requesting any information about a stolen red Jeep Cherokee with Missouri plates, the vehicle Duncan had been using when he was arrested. It was later learned that Duncan had rented the SUV in Minnesota, but never returned it. Then came a crucial lead. A gas station employee in Kellogg, Idaho, just 40 miles east of Curtin, contacted police. She had seen the red Jeep at her station not long before the arrest. A man had been pumping gas. A little girl had wandered inside. Something about her had struck the employee as strange, but nothing seemed overtly wrong at the time. Still, the girl had lingered in her memory. It wasn't until later, when she saw the news and reviewed the surveillance footage, that everything snapped into place. The girl was Shasta, the man was Duncan, and they had been right there hours before the arrest, hiding in plain sight, passing through ordinary places like ghosts unnoticed by most. As investigators retraced Duncan's movements, piecing together the trail of terror he'd left behind, the reality of what Dylan had endured and where he might be now was slowly coming into focus. But it was a truth more chilling than anyone was prepared for. The man who could slaughter a family in cold blood, abduct two innocent children, and then calmly sit in a diner with one of them just hours before his world came crashing down had a past, one filled with crimes and violence from an early age. Joseph Edward Duncan III was born on February 25, 1963 in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. As the fourth of 5 children, his father, a military man, served in the United States Army, which meant the Duncan family rarely stayed in one place for long. The family moved frequently, sometimes every year or two, hopping from one city to another, even overseas, until finally settling in Tacoma, Washington, when Duncan was about 12. Home, however, was far from a sanctuary. Duncan later painted a picture of a childhood filled with pain, claiming he was subjected to physical and sexual abuse at an early age. Allegations that to this day remain disputed. His younger brother would go on to deny that such abuse ever took place. What is clear is that the Duncan household was deeply troubled. His mother, Lillian Mae Duncan, was described as controlling and overbearing, while his father, often away for military service, was a distant figure whose eventual retirement brought him back into the picture, but not back into the family. The couple divorced and the family fractured in the process. Duncan's 3 older sisters left home almost simultaneously, and Duncan, still a teenager, was left behind with his mother, while his younger brother eventually moved in with their father, who would go on to remarry, forming a new family that Joseph never truly felt part of. By the time he entered high school, Lakes High School to be exact, he was already slipping through the cracks. He never graduated. And in many ways, he never stood a chance. Because beneath the surface of this awkward, restless teenager was a mind already fixated on things that should never enter a child's thoughts. And soon that darkness would no longer stay hidden. Duncan wasn't just a troubled teenager. He was already becoming something far more dangerous, far more calculated. His first known offense dates back to 1978 when he was just 15 years old. And even then, the crime was as brutal as it was terrifying. Armed with a gun, Duncan essayed a 9-year-old boy. And this wasn't a one-time act. This was the beginning of a pattern. A pattern that revealed the twisted urges Duncan had been hiding behind a boyish face and a quiet demeanor. Just a year later, he was arrested again, this time for something seemingly unrelated, driving a stolen car. But that arrest was merely the thread that began to unravel the terrifying truth about who Duncan really was. He was sentenced as a juvenile offender and sent to the Jesse Disland Boys Ranch in Tacoma. While in custody, Duncan opened up to a therapist with cold, emotionless honesty. He admitted that he had tied up and essayed at least 6 boys, describing these incidents in chilling detail. He wasn't seeking help. He wasn't crying out for intervention. He was simply stating the facts, calmly acknowledging what he had done. Even more disturbingly, he estimated that by the time he turned 16, he had assaulted as many as 13 younger boys. The warning signs had been there all along. They just weren't taken seriously. And as history would tragically prove, Joseph Duncan wasn't finished. Not even close. By 2005, Joseph Edward Duncan had already lived a life marked by cycles of violence. Yet somehow, he kept slipping through the cracks. And then came the moment that would allow him to vanish and to kill again. In March of that year, Duncan was charged in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota with yet another vile crime. He had allegedly molested 2 young boys on July 3, 2004, luring them at a local playground and subjecting them to the same pattern of abuse he had carried out since his teens. He was a registered offender already known to authorities, already with a record of violent crimes against children. And yet, the justice system once again offered him a window of opportunity. On April 5, 2005, Duncan stood before a judge in Becker County. You would think that by now, with his history laid bare, he would be held without bail or confined until trial. But instead, bail was set at just $15,000, and that decision would change everything. Duncan didn't have the money himself, but a Fargo businessman, someone he had become friendly with during his time in the area, agreed to help. The man posted Duncan's bail, likely unaware that he wasn't just helping an accused criminal walk free. He was unknowingly unleashing a predator. Soon after being released, Duncan did exactly what many feared he might do. He disappeared. He skipped bail. He vanished off the grid. No ankle monitor, no law enforcement tail. On June 1, 2005, a full 2 months after his release, a federal warrant was finally issued for his arrest, charging him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. But by then, it was already too late. By the time that piece of paper was filed and his face hit the Wanted lists. Joseph Edward Duncan was already watching the grown family, stalking them in silence, choosing his moment. He wasn't running from the law in fear. He was using his freedom to hunt, and the system had opened the cage. What we know about that horrifying night at the Grown home, what truly happened behind those walls, is because of one brave little girl who lived to tell the tale. Shasta Grown would later sit with investigators and recount in heartbreaking detail the chain of events that unfolded when a monster came into her home. It was sometime during the night when her mother came rushing into the bedroom where Shasta and her brother Dylan were sleeping. Shasta remembered her mother's voice clearly. It was low, urgent, and filled with fear. She shook them gently and whispered, "Someone is in the house." The kind of sentence no child should ever have to hear. They followed her into the living room, and that's when Shasta saw him for the first time. Joseph Edward Duncan III, dressed in dark clothing, wearing black gloves, and holding a gun. He didn't look wild or angry. He looked calm, in control, like he had planned this all along. Duncan used nylon zip ties to bind their hands. First Shasta's mom, Brenda, then her mother's fiancé, Mark Mackenzie, and finally Slade, Shasta's 13-year-old brother. Once the adults were tied up, he led little Shasta and Dylan outside the house and made them sit on the front lawn, away from what was about to happen. Shasta remembered holding her brother's hand, waiting in the dark, hearing the terrifying sound of thuds coming from inside, the heavy, sickening kind that told her something horrible was happening. Then something she could never forget. Her brother Slade, bloody and badly hurt, stumbled out the front door as if trying to escape. But he didn't make it far. Duncan finished what he had started. He bludgeoned all three of them, Brenda, Mark, and Slade, to death. He used a hammer, something so personal, so brutal, it left little doubt about the sheer rage and violence behind each swing. And then he put Shasta and Dylan in the stolen red Jeep Cherokee, and drove away into the night, as if taking them from their world into his. That was just the beginning of a 6-week-long nightmare. They drove for what felt like forever. Long roads, quiet forests, winding paths that led deeper and deeper into the wilderness. Duncan brought them to 2 different campsites hidden from the world. There, far from any help, any chance of escape, he tortured and abused both children repeatedly. Shasta later told investigators that Duncan didn't try to hide what he had done. He bragged about it. He told her coldly that he had beaten her family to death with a hammer. But the worst moment came weeks later, the moment Shasta lost her only companion, her brother Dylan. According to her testimony, it happened near Duncan's Jeep. Shasta was standing on one side of the vehicle when she heard a sudden loud bang. She ran around to the other side and there was Dylan on the ground screaming, holding his stomach. A shotgun Duncan kept in a clear plastic storage box had fired. He claimed it went off by accident while he was digging around for beer. But what happened next wasn't an accident at all. As Dylan lay on the ground begging for help, Duncan picked up the gun and pointed it directly at the boy's head. He pulled the trigger, clicked. Nothing happened. The gun jammed. Dylan, terrified, begged him not to kill him. He pleaded, but Duncan didn't stop. He reloaded the weapon, then aimed again. This time it fired, and just like that, Dylan was gone. Shasta, trembling and heartbroken, would later recall how Duncan started crying afterward. He told her he only did it to put Dylan out of his misery. But no amount of tears could hide what he was. A killer, not just of bodies, but of innocence, of families. Of everything good and safe in a child's world. It didn't end there. A few days later, Shasta said Duncan turned to her and gave her a choice. The kind of question no child should ever have to answer. He asked if she wanted to die. And if so, how, by strangulation or by gun? Shasta, terrified but trying to stay calm, told him strangulation. So Duncan wrapped a rope around her neck and began to pull tight. But in a desperate moment, she gasped out one word, Jet, the nickname she had started calling him during captivity. That one word made him stop. He loosened the rope, looked at her, then, almost like flipping a switch, he said something unexpected. Do you want to meet my mom? Shasta, thinking quickly, said yes. Maybe she saw it as a way to survive, to stall, to find a way out. Whatever the reason, Duncan agreed, and that's what led them back on the road back to Curtin and finally to that Denny's restaurant where Shasta was rescued, ending one of the darkest, most heartbreaking chapters in modern true crime history. As the investigation into the Grun family massacre unfolded, it became clear that Joseph Edward Duncan's crimes didn't begin or end in Idaho. His arrest triggered a nationwide review of unsolved child abductions as the FBI began to dig into his past, tracing every move he made during the years he had been free. What they uncovered was a pattern of violence that stretched across states and years, revealing a predator who had been hiding in plain sight for far too long. One of the first links came from California, where in 1997, 10-year-old Anthony Martinez was abducted while playing outside his home. At the time, there was a suspect's sketch and a partial fingerprint found on duct tape used to bind the child, but no match. The case went cold. It wasn't until July 2005, after Duncan's capture, that online sleuths noticed a disturbing similarity between Duncan and the old composite. Authorities acted quickly. When the fingerprint from the crime scene was compared against Duncan, it matched. Confronted with the evidence, Duncan confessed, calling the murder of Anthony Martinez his revenge against society. But it didn't stop there. Shasta Grun later told investigators that Duncan had talked openly about other murders, including two sisters, Samo White and Carmen Cubillas, who disappeared in Seattle in 1996. Their remains were found nearly 2 years later, but until Shasta's account and Duncan's confession, no one knew who was responsible. Duncan admitted to beating them to death. Yet another chilling confirmation that his evil had reached even further than anyone initially feared. And so the trials began, not just for the murders in Idaho, but for a trail of devastation that spanned multiple states. As the full extent of Duncan's crimes came to light, the courtroom became a stage for a reckoning that was long overdue. After his arrest in that Coeur d'Alene Denny's with 8-year-old Shasta Grun by his side, Joseph Edward Duncan III faced far more than just local charges. What unfolded over the next several years would become one of the most complex and harrowing criminal proceedings in recent memory. A multi-court pursuit of justice spanning 3 states, with each courtroom unraveling more of the horrifying truth about the predator in their midst. On July 13, 2005, just 11 days after Shasta was rescued, Duncan made his first appearance before a judge in Gwinnett County, Idaho. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of first-degree kidnapping for the brutal slayings of Brenda Grunn, her son Slade, and her fiancé Mark McKenzie. Initially, there were plans to also charge him in state court for the abduction of Shasta and Dylan, but those charges were deferred to the federal level as taking children across state lines for abuse is classified as a federal crime. The legal process in Idaho moved slowly, delayed more than once by Duncan's defense team, who argued they needed more time to prepare. The real cause for the back and forth was the prosecution's uncompromising stance on seeking the death penalty, a decision Duncan's attorney said was making the process more difficult and emotionally charged. The trial date was postponed multiple times, finally landing in October 2006, a full year after jury selection had begun, but it never went to trial. Just as the jury was being finalized, Duncan's attorneys reached a plea deal with prosecutors. Duncan pleaded guilty to all 6 state charges, sparing Idaho the trauma of a drawn-out trial. He was immediately handed 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole for the kidnapping charges. Sentencing on the murder charges was postponed, pending the outcome of his federal trial. The judge made it clear if the federal government did not sentence Duncan to death, Idaho would. Still, Duncan wasn't done talking. As part of the agreement, he cooperated with local authorities, offering information on his crimes and even handing over passwords to encrypted files on his computer. Files that would expose much more than anyone was prepared for. Then came the federal trial, the most damning and emotionally charged chapter of all. On January 18, 2007, Duncan was indicted by a federal grand jury in Curtin on 10 counts, including kidnapping, aggravated abuse of a minor, exploitation of a child, resulting in death, and firearm violations. The crimes were tied to the abduction and murder of Dylan Gran, and the repeated abuse of both Dylan and Shasta during their 6-week captivity. He was arraigned the next day in Boise, where his defense team again asked for a delay and got it. The trial was pushed to January 2008, nearly 3 years after the crimes. But once again, Duncan pleaded guilty, this time to all 10 federal charges. One of the conditions of his plea was that Shasta Groen would not have to testify. She had already endured the unimaginable. She didn't need to relieve it in front of a courtroom full of strangers. Then came the penalty phase, and this time, Duncan stunned everyone. He fired his attorneys and chose to represent himself. His lawyers objected, arguing that he was mentally unfit, but after a psychiatric evaluation, the court ruled he was competent. Duncan was allowed to take control of his own defense. And so, the man who had destroyed a family now stood alone in court defending his life. On August 27, 2008, after just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with its decision. Death. Duncan was sentenced to 3 death sentences, all tied to the abduction, abuse, and murder of Dylan. On top of that, he received 3 more life sentences for kidnapping and assaulting Shasta and Dylan. Duncan's standby counsel filed an appeal, but Duncan wrote directly to the court and told them that the appeal was against his wishes. He wanted no delays and accepted the outcome. But the court system had one more layer to sort through. In 2011, the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the district judge should have held a formal hearing before allowing Duncan to represent himself. The case was sent back for a mental competency review. It would take years, but by 2013, a federal judge ruled that Duncan had been mentally competent all along. Government psychiatrists diagnosed him with pedophilia, sadism, and antisocial personality disorder, but made clear he was legally sane and fully responsible for his actions. Duncan spent his final years at the United States Penitentiary in Terre Indiana, on federal death row. It was there, surrounded by the consequences of a lifetime of horror, that the man who once believed he could outsmart justice was left to wait. He was legally declared competent, stripped of all appeal routes, and sentenced across multiple jurisdictions. His time had finally run out. In October 2020, doctors at the Federal Bureau of Prisons diagnosed him with glioblastoma, an aggressive and incurable form of brain cancer. Surgery was performed, but Duncan made it clear he didn't want to live. He refused further treatment. The prognosis was grim, but predictable. 6 to 12 months, doctors said. And this time he didn't argue. On March 28, 2021, inside his prison cell at the United States Penitentiary in Terre, Indiana, the man who had torn apart so many lives, died at the age of 58. His body was quietly cremated, and for Shasta Groen, who survived when no one thought she would, who lived through what no child should, and who grew into a young woman brave enough to speak for her brothers and fight for others. This was not justice. It was not healing. Story 6. On July 4, 2022, a deadly massacre broke out in Highland Park, Illinois, killing 7 people and injuring more than 40, making it one of the worst mass shootings in Illinois history. This is a terribly difficult day and the bloodiest that we've experienced in Highland Park. There are no words for the kind of evil that shows up at a public celebration of freedom, hides on a roof, and shoots innocent people with an assault rifle. What makes this even more disturbing is the fact that there were warning signs, red flags, that could have saved lives, but were ignored. In today's video, you'll understand exactly why the 4th of July will never feel the same for those who lived through it, and why it never should have happened in the first place. It's on our mind every day. It's not every day it's there. Some days it's worse than others. Larry Bloom. The floats are going by. Maybe someone set off fireworks, you know, and then obviously very quickly it turned into, you know, just rapid fire. Alexander Sandoval. I ran with my brother and my child and my dog and I ran around the building. I put them in a dumpster. I told them that, you know, that somebody was firing fireworks into the crowd. That they needed to wait for me. And Key Roberts, I think about the family that went to the parade that day. And that family's gone. These were just some of the people who survived the attack. Brave, shaken, and forever changed. But while they made it out alive, others weren't so lucky. Stephen Strauss, 88 years old, went to the parade just to watch and enjoy the day. He wasn't part of the crowd, cheering loudly. He was simply observing, soaking in the moment. He was shot and killed where he stood. Nicolas Toledo Zaragoza, a father of 8 from Mexico, was in town visiting family that day. He joined them for what was supposed to be a fun outing. He had no idea it would be his last. Nicholas was hit by several bullets and died in front of his family, who were left screaming and begging for help. Then there were Rena and Kevin McCarthy, who brought their 2-year-old son Aiden to the parade. But when gunshots rang out, everything changed. Kevin threw himself over Aiden to protect him. Both Rena and Kevin were killed. Aiden was found wandering the scene alone, his parents gone forever, his little hands stained with blood. Jackie Sandheim, a kind woman known for her work and warm spirit at her synagogue, was also killed. Catherine Goldstein came to enjoy the day with her daughter. She never made it home. Eduardo Yu was shot in the head. He held on for a day in the hospital before he too passed away. In just minutes, lives were taken, families destroyed, and a celebration turned into tragedy. The 4th of July would never be the same for the people of Highland Park. Now, the question is, who did this? And why? We begin with breaking news in the deadly shooting at that 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois. Just a short time ago, prosecutors announced the suspect is now charged with 7 counts of murder as the death toll continues to grow. At least 7 people killed, more than 30 wounded. Tonight, authorities are revealing more about the alleged gunman and the plot that they say he'd been working on for weeks. They released this image, saying, 21-year-old Robert Crema escaped through the chaos by wearing a wig and dressing in women's clothing, covering his tattoos, and blending into the crowd. Robert Eugene Crema III was born on September 20, 2000 in Chicago, Illinois, and grew up in a town just north of the city called Highland Park. He came from a family of Italian descent and was the middle child of 3 siblings. Highland Park is a quiet, upscale area with a population of just over 30,000 people. It's the kind of place where people know their neighbors and the streets are lined with trees and parks. But Robert's story would cast a dark shadow over that peaceful image. In a strange twist of fate, Nancy Rotering, the current mayor of Highland Park, actually knew Robert personally years before the tragedy. She remembered him not as a monster or a threat, but as a shy, quiet boy. Her words carried the pain and disbelief many in the town felt when they found out who was behind the horrific attack. Robert's uncle, Paul Crema, echoed a similar emotion. In interviews, Paul said he was heartbroken by what happened on the 4th of July. When asked if he noticed any warning signs or red flags before the attack, Paul shook his head and said there were none, at least not any that he saw. According to him, Robert wasn't working at the time, but he had a job before the pandemic at a Panera Bread location. Paul described his nephew as a quiet, lonely person who kept everything to himself. He wasn't aware of any political views or involvement. To most, Robert was simply withdrawn and distant. Not someone who would go on to commit mass murder. Before the shooting, Robert was living in a small apartment behind his family's house in Highwood, Illinois, a nearby town. The apartment was owned by his father, Bob Crema Jr., a local businessman and former convenience store owner. Bob currently runs a local deli in town. Interestingly, Bob once ran for mayor of Highland Park in 2019, going head-to-head with Nancy Rotering. During that campaign, Rotering spoke out against assault weapons. Meanwhile, Bob's public behavior showed he may have held opposing views. Just a few days after the tragic school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed, Bob liked a tweet that read, "Protect the Second Amendment. Like your life depends on it." Robert's mother, identified as Denise Pacina, is a Mormon and works in the field of alternative therapies. She's connected to a company called Trilogy Energy Systems, which deals with energy healing and holistic practices. While neither parent ever seemed to suspect their son was capable of such violence, some community members and observers have pointed out that Robert's upbringing was far from typical. There were reports of police being called to the Crimo household multiple times dating back to his childhood. What many people missed or ignored were the alarming signs on Robert's social media and online presence. Long before the shooting, Robert had already created a dark online world for himself. He released music under the name Awake the Rapper, uploading songs and videos filled with disturbing imagery. He posted albums in 2017, 2018, and again in 2021. His music videos often included pictures of weapons, gunshots, and even animations of him shooting people. In one clip, he's seen wearing a bulletproof vest, rapping about destiny and destruction. In another, he narrates, "I need to do it. It's my destiny." More recently, Robert Crimo had released an EP titled Brainwashed, a name that now seems eerily fitting. The project included tracks like Dead Again and I Am the Storm, both filled with ominous undertones and lyrics that, in hindsight, read like subtle warnings of what was to come. Before his music was taken down, he was averaging around 16,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. The platform has since removed his catalog, likely as a move to prevent the glamorization or viral spread of his content, something that's sadly become common after tragedies where perpetrators gain a disturbing level of notoriety. In this case, the removal seemed more like an act of respect for the victims rather than censorship. Crimo's presence on YouTube was equally unsettling. He didn't just rap, he built entire animated worlds around violence and death. One of the most chilling videos he uploaded was titled, "Are You Awake?", which showed a stick figure character that closely resembled him. In the video, this figure is dressed in tactical gear and carries out a calculated shooting with a rifle. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't symbolic. It was a blueprint. Another video, Toy Soldier, showed the same stick figure lying face down in a pool of blood surrounded by armed police. These weren't abstract ideas or artistic metaphors. They were visual rehearsals for real-life horror. Beyond his music and videos, Robert also managed a Discord server called SS, a name disturbingly associated with the Nazi paramilitary group responsible for many atrocities during the Holocaust. This added another layer of darkness to his already troubling online presence. While it's unclear how active or large this Discord group was, the choice of name alone was enough to raise major red flags. Still, no one in his circle seemed to take action. Or maybe no one knew the full extent of what he was doing online. In October of 2021, Robert uploaded what many now believe was a video manifesto. It combined elements from his earlier videos and featured a haunting voiceover. In a detached and cold tone, he said things like a sleepwalker, I am breaking through. My actions will be valiant. My thought is unnecessary. I know what I have to do." These words echoed like a prophecy, a calm before the storm. The background. Visuals included newspaper headlines, including one referencing the death of Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who assassinated President John F. Kennedy in 1963. Even Mayor Nancy Rotering, who had known Robert as a child, later admitted in an interview that there were several postings that clearly reflected a plan and a desire to commit carnage. His intentions weren't hidden in the deep web or buried in secret chat rooms. They were out in the open for anyone to see. And yet, tragically, no one intervened in time. Then came the day that changed Highland Park forever. July 4, 2022. It began like any typical Independence Day in the peaceful Illinois suburb. Streets were lined with red, white, and blue. Families showed up dressed in patriotic clothes. Children waved flags. The town, which had only seen 2 murders in 20 years, felt like one of the safest places to be. But safety, as it turned out, was an illusion. At around 10:15 in the morning, just 15 minutes into the parade, the sounds of celebration were drowned out by the pop-pop of gunfire. At first, many thought it was fireworks. But when the marching band dropped their instruments and ran, panic set in. Screams echoed through the streets. People tripped over each other as they tried to flee. Parents grabbed their children and ducked behind floats. In the chaos, blood covered the pavement. Bodies fell. Confusion turned to horror. Reports would later confirm that Robert had climbed an unsecured metal ladder behind Gearhead Outfitters, an outdoor equipment store. From the rooftop, he had a clear view of the parade route. Armed with a high-powered semi-automatic rifle, he began firing into the crowd. He killed 6 people on the spot. A 7th would die later at the hospital. More than 3 dozen others were injured, many seriously. Witnesses described the scene as absolute pandemonium. The shooting ended as quickly as it began, but the damage was already done. Victims were found lying motionless on the street. Families were separated in the chaos. One child was found wandering alone. His parents, Irina and Kevin McCarthy, had been shot and killed while shielding him from bullets. Among the 38 people injured, the ages ranged from 8 to 85. At least 5 of the victims were children. Nearly all were suffering from gunshot wounds and were rushed to North Shore University Health System. Emergency responders worked tirelessly to treat wounds, stop bleeding, and reunite loved ones. But nothing could erase the trauma of that morning. What made this tragedy even more disturbing was what happened right after the shooting ended. As the crowd scrambled to help the injured and police rushed in to secure the scene, the man behind the massacre, Robert Crema, was already gone. Somehow, he had slipped away before anyone realized what had happened. And how did he do it? In a strange and calculated move, Robert disguised himself in women's clothing to blend in with the fleeing crowd. Witnesses later said they had seen someone looking oddly out of place, but in the chaos, no one would have guessed they were standing next to a mass shooter. But Robert's escape wouldn't last long. The turning point in the investigation came from the very thing he left behind: his high-powered rifle, believed to be similar to an AR-15 style weapon. Police recovered it at the scene and quickly traced it back to him. That gun, purchased legally, led authorities straight to Robert's home in Highwood, Illinois, where he lived with his father. Officers arrived at the house by Monday evening, just a day after the massacre, ready to make an arrest. However, when they entered the home, Robert wasn't there. It's unclear what they found inside, but what mattered was that the suspect was still on the run. Thankfully, he wouldn't be free for long. Just hours later, during a routine traffic stop, a North Chicago police officer spotted a silver Honda Fit matching the description of Robert's vehicle. The license plate confirmed it. This was their guy. When officers tried to pull him over, Robert briefly tried to flee, but the chase didn't last long. Police forced him off the road and took him into custody without incident. Lake Forest, that's not far from Highland Park at all, as you know, just north of it. Police say a sharp-eyed officer from North Chicago noticed Crema's car and tried to stop him. And we also have, and that's what we're looking at right here. That's the car in question's car. Another video as well where police say there was that short pursuit. Crema was finally taken into custody. We're not sure pursuit. We're not sure if that was seconds, a minute, whatever. We'll probably find out the specifics on that at some point. But all of this happens about 8 hours after the attack that shattered the 4th of July celebrations in downtown Highland Park. By that point, the country was already shaken. The news had spread fast. The photos, the name, the disturbing online content. It was everywhere. The small, quiet town of Highland Park had been rocked by an unthinkable act of violence. 7 people were dead. Dozens were hurt. Hundreds, if not thousands, were emotionally scarred. And yet, the question on everyone's mind was the same. Why? Why did he do this? What pushed him to plan something so cruel? Part of the answer may lie in his need for attention. Robert didn't just want to hurt people. He wanted people to watch, to remember, to talk about him. The references in his videos, the stick figures acting out violent scenes, the chilling lyrics, all suggest a deep desire to be seen, even if it meant becoming infamous. And in today's world, where being viral sometimes means more than being valued, that kind of thinking can fester dangerously in someone who already feels invisible. Crema also seemed to crave control. In real life, he was quiet, distant, and somewhat disconnected from those around him. But online, he could build his own world. One where he was the central figure, the hero, the villain, the one holding the power. That false sense of control may have made him feel stronger, more important, more alive than he felt in reality. And when someone is deeply isolated, even twisted attention can feel like purpose. As discussed earlier, he had access to firearms, a history of making threats, and a digital footprint full of red flags. So why wasn't anything done? That's another layer of the tragedy. Crema's behavior might not have surprised anyone who really looked, but very few people did. Whether it was denial, a lack of communication, or the failure of systems meant to protect us, it all created a space where his plan could take shape quietly and unnoticed. Then there's the mental health aspect. Crema had reportedly attempted self-harm before. He had threatened to harm his family. These are not small warnings. They're loud cries for help. and yet they seem to pass without serious consequences or sustained intervention. Mental illness doesn't always explain violence. But when it goes untreated for years, it can distort reality. It can make someone feel like the only way out is destruction. He also idolized past killers, especially ones who gained fame through acts of terror. That kind of admiration doesn't develop overnight. It's often the result of loneliness, obsession, and a steady diet of disturbing content. When someone already feels like they don't matter and they constantly consume stories where violence gets attention, it creates a dangerous belief that horror equals significance, that causing pain is a way to leave a mark. It's heartbreaking to say, but Robert Crema may have truly believed this was his legacy, that by taking lives, he would give meaning to his own. But let's be clear, this isn't about glorifying him. This is about recognizing the warning signs that too many people ignored. Because behind every quiet kid, every weird post, every angry outburst, there could be someone silently spiraling towards something unthinkable. And stopping the next Cremo means paying attention before the chaos begins. Because the cost of ignoring it is lives. One of the most gut-wrenching stories comes from a young family who just wanted to enjoy a sunny 4th of July parade. Kevin McCarthy, 37, and his wife, Irina, 35, brought their 2-year-old son, Aiden, to watch the celebration that morning. They were known to be a tight, joyful family. Friends say they were crazy about their child and already planning to have another baby. But when the gunshots rang out, Kevin did what any loving father would do. He dropped to the ground and wrapped his son in his arms. He used his own body as a shield, taking the bullets to protect Aiden. His last act was one of pure love. Later, his family confirmed that he had Aiden under his body when he was shot. The toddler, covered in his father's blood, was later found by strangers, confused, scared, and alone. You mentioned Aiden was talking. He was saying things. What was he saying? He'd say, "Dad shot, Mom shot." And I would say to him, "Everything's going to be fine." I didn't know his name. I didn't know. I was just talking to him, telling him, everything's going to be fine. And he just kept on saying that over and over again. He wasn't crying, very calm, very wide-eyed. When we pulled him out from under his father, we inspected him, pulled his shirt up because he had blood all over him. Irina McCarthy, too, gave her life shielding her child. She was a bright and loving mother who worked in digital marketing and had a background in finance. Friends and family described her as the light in every room. The love of my life, her father said. Now Aiden is being raised by his grandparents, carrying the legacy of two parents who literally gave everything for him. His survival is a living reminder of their bravery and sacrifice. Kevin's funeral was held in Skoye, Illinois, and hundreds came to mourn him. He wasn't a politician or a celebrity. He was a quiet, hard-working man with a job at a gene therapy startup and a deep love for his family. And yet, his final act made him a hero. His grandfather told the crowd what rescuers had said. He had Aiden under his body when he was shot. It's the kind of sentence that silences a room. But Kevin and Ina weren't the only lives stolen that day. Jackie Sunday, 63, was a beloved preschool teacher and synagogue staffer. Her kindness touched countless lives. Her daughter later urged Morris to honor her memory by putting more joy and kindness into the world. Catherine Goldstein, 64, had gone to the parade with her daughter. She was a devoted mother and a Highland Park native known for her big heart and gentle nature. Stephen Strauss, 88, was the oldest victim, a retired financial advisor with an unstoppable spirit. He loved the symphony, bird watching, and long walks. His family said he lived with energy and grace. Nicolas Toledo Zaragoza, 78, had traveled from Mexico to visit family. Despite using a walker, he insisted on attending the parade. He was hit while standing in front of his loved ones, protecting them. His granddaughter said he saved all of our lives. And then there was Eduardo Uvaldo, 69, who had just celebrated his 50th wedding anniversary. He was shot during the parade and later died in the hospital. His family described him as the soul of every celebration, full of laughter and love. Each victim left behind family, friends, dreams, and a city that will never be the same. And through this video, we want to do more than just tell a story. We want this to be a tribute, a way to honor the victims, to say their names, and to remind the world that they mattered. They were loved. They were cherished, and they should never be forgotten. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think this tragedy could have been stopped? I mean, this wasn't just some stranger. The police knew who he was. As the rain gently falls and the night grows deeper. Thank you for joining me here at Mr. Night Cared. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the importance of staying aware even as we seek comfort in the quiet of the night. Let the rain carry you to a peaceful sleep. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night watch over you.